Нет, это все реально работает. Мы все взаимосвязаны. Как вот сейчас мы на вопросы здесь отвечали для участников. Еще раз доброго времени суток всем.
Good afternoon, everybody.
В нашем духовном забеге или духовном марафоне,
Welcome to our spiritual run, our spiritual marathon
на благо мира.
For the benefit of the world.
Мы изучаем Srimad Bhagavatam.
We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam.
И очень здорово, что так много людей участвует, очень здорово, что
And
много
very wonderful that so many people are participating
этого забега, этого марафона,
in this marathon run.
Именно с настроением, участвуют с настроением помочь просто миру.
And with the mood of helping the world.
Это все работает, то есть это не просто сентименты.
It really does work. Some sort of
Нет, это
sentiment.
все реально работает.
It really works.
Мы все взаимосвязаны.
We're connected with everybody.
Сейчас мы на вопросы здесь отвечали для участников. Мы все связаны.
Just like they were answering earlier, we're connected with everybody.
Страны со странами, мы даже измерения разные, планетные,
from different forms of life, different countries, different planets.
И то, что мы сейчас вот здесь делаем,
everything that we're doing right now,
это все влияет очень сильно на Землю, на планету, на людей,
it
на
really affects the whole world.
В целом, да. Поэтому также я еще раз хотел бы призвать всех, кто
Also, I wanted to tell everybody
участвует в этом марафоне, чтении или изучении или слушании
marathon, the reading or listening of the Srimad
Bhagavatam. Будьте
Bhagavatam.
максимально погруженными, то есть будьте максимально включенными
I ask you to
туда.
be as involved and as connected as you can be.
Не имеется в виду, что все должны одинаково бежать, да, в марафоне.
Doesn't mean that everyone should
Качество.
run the same way or do it the same way. We're putting a focus on the quality.
Немножко отстают на 2 главы, кто-то на 3 там.
Even if you have to
Ничего страшного,
not
вы не
participate in
отстаете, всё нормально.
a
Если
chapter
вы
or two, it's
более
okay.
погружены туда, внимательно читаете, то
The
это
most important
не
thing
факт,
is
что вы
to
отстаете, может быть,
attentively
даже вы
read.
обгоняете нас.
You'll be able to
В
catch up to
зависимости
us.
от уровня сознания вы будете понимать, насколько вы успешны,
With the change of your consciousness, you'll be able to understand how successful you are.
Хорошо, мы продолжаем.
Okay, we're continuing.
Не исключаю, что еще на один день, может быть, мы продлим также наш марафон.
There's a chance that we might make an exception and
Возможно, мы успеем чуть-чуть дочитать, ну как
our marathon another day. We might not make it all the way to read it all in 7 days.
Страниц на 100, может быть.
Maybe about 100 pages.
То есть, возможно, еще будет одно дополнительное наше чтение.
There's a chance that there'll be one more day.
Это даже хорошо.
That's even good.
Это духовный марафон. Если дистанция увеличивается, о чем уже многие пишут, говорят, что давайте, если карантин опять продлевает, может быть, марафон продлить.
Asking that they're saying that they're going to increase the quarantine. They want to keep doing this.
В этом мире, если продлить марафон материальный по бегу, то люди не обрадуются этому.
It's interesting that in the material world, if we can make the quarantine longer, the people won't be happy.
Добавим там или 8, или 10.
Maybe another 10, 15 days.
А здесь же наоборот, если добавляется, то наоборот все хотят еще
here they add some more days, everyone's going to be happy.
Присутствие духовной энергии.
Because here is spiritual energy.
Непосредственно духовный мир, что там счастье всегда.
Here in the spiritual world, the happiness is always increasing, joy is always increasing.
Духовный мир так и классифицируется.
That's how the spiritual world is fixed.
Хорошо, давайте
Okay,
продолжать.
Let's go.
Ом намо Бхагавате Васудевая. Ом намо Бхагавате Васудевая. Ом намо Бхагавате Васудевая. Нараяна намаскритям нарам чива наротамам. Девим Сарасватим Vyasam Tattva Mudирает Нашта Праешва Бхадришу Нитям Бхагавата Севая Бхагавати Уттама Шлоке Бхактир Бхавати Найштики.
Okay, reading the fifth canto, second chapter, the activities of Maharaj Agnidra. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued. After his father, Maharaj Priyavarta, departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidra completely disobeyed his order, strictly observing the principles of religion. He gave full protection to the inhabitants of Jambudvip, as if they were his own begotten sons. Desiring to get a perfect son and become an inhabitant of Pitriloka, Maharaj Agnidra once worshipped Lord Brahma, the master of those in charge of the material creation. He went to the valley of Mandara Hill, where the damsels of the heavenly planet come down to stroll. There he collected garden flowers and other necessary paraphernalia, and then engaged in severe austerities of worship. Understanding King Agnidra's desire, the first and most powerful created being of the universe, Lord Brahma, selected the best of the dancing girls in his assembly, whose name was Purvachiti, and sent her to the king. The Apsara, sent by Lord Brahma, began strolling in a beautiful park near the place where the king was meditating and worshipping. The park was beautiful because it was of its dense green foliage and golden creepers. There were pairs of varied birds such as peacocks, and in a lake there were ducks and swans, all vibrating very sweet sounds. Thus the park was magnificently beautiful because of the foliage, the clear water, the lotus flowers, and the sweet singing of various kinds of birds. As Purvachiti passed by on the road in a very beautiful style and mood of her own, and pleasing ornaments on her ankles tinkled with every step, although Prince Agnidra was controlling his senses, practicing yoga with half-opened eyes, he could see her with his lotus-like eyes, and when he heard the sweet tinkling of her bangles, he opened his eyes slightly more, and could see that she was just nearby. Like a honeybee, the Apsara smelled the beautiful and attractive flowers. She could attract the minds and vision of both humans and demigods by her playful movements, her shyness and humility. Her glances and very pleasing sounds that poured from her mouth as she spoke, and the motion of her limbs. By all these qualities she opened for Cupid, who bears an arrow of flowers, a path of oral reception into the minds of men. When she spoke, nectar seemed to flow from her mouth. As she breathed, the bees, mad for the taste of her breath, tried to hover about her beautiful lotus-like eyes. Disturbed by the bees, she tried to move hastily, but as she raised her feet to walk quickly, her hair and the belt on her hips and her breasts, which were just like water jugs, also moved in a way that made her extremely beautiful and attractive. Indeed, she seemed to be making a path for the interest of Cupid, who is most powerful. Therefore, the prince, completely subdued by seeing her, spoke to her as follows. The prince mistakenly addressed the Apsara. My dear friend, you have two very powerful arrows, namely your glancing eyes. Those arrows have feathers like the petals of a lotus flower. Although they have no shafts, they are very beautiful, and they have very sharp, piercing points. They appear very peaceful, and thus it seems that they will not be shot at anyone. You must be loitering in this forest to shoot those arrows at someone. But I cannot understand whom. My intelligence is dull, and I cannot combat you. Indeed, no one can equal you in prowess, and therefore I pray that your prowess will be for my good fortune. Seeing the bumblebees following Purvachiti, Maharaj Agnidra said, My dear Lord, The bumblebees surrounding your body are like disciples surrounding your worshipable self. They are incessantly chanting the mantras of the Samveda and the Upanishads, thus offering prayers to you. Just as great sages resort to the branches of Vedic literature, the bumblebees are enjoying the showers of flowers falling from your hair. O Brahmana, I can simply hear the tinkling of your ankle bells. Within those bells, tittery birds seem to be chirping among themselves. Although I do not see their forms, I can hear how they are chirping. When I look at your beautiful circular hips, I see they are the lovely color of kadamba flowers, and your waist is encircled by a belt of burning cinders. Indeed, you seem to have forgotten to dress yourself. Agnidra then praised Purvati's raised breasts. He said, My dear Brahmana, your waist is very thin, yet with great difficulty you are carrying 2 horns, to which my eyes have become attracted. What is filling those 2 beautiful horns? You seem to have spread fragrant red powder upon them, powder that is like the rising morning sun. O most fortunate one, I beg to inquire where you have gotten to this fragrant powder that is perfuming my ashram, my place of residence. O best friend, will you kindly show me the place where you reside? I cannot imagine how the residents of that place have gotten such wonderful bodily features as your raised breasts, which agitate the mind and eyes of a person like me, who sees them. Judging by the sweet speech, the kind smiles of those residents, I think that their mouths must contain nectar. My dear friend, what do you eat to maintain your body? Because you are chewing betel, and a pleasing scent is emanating from your mouth. This proves that you always eat the remnants of food offered to Vishnu. Indeed, you must also be an expansion of Lord Vishnu's body. Your face is as beautiful as a pleasing lake. Your jeweled earrings resemble 2 brilliant sharks with unblinking eyes like those of Vishnu. And your own eyes resemble 2 restless fish. Simultaneously, therefore, 2 sharks and 2 restless fish are swimming in the lake of your face. Besides them, the white rows of your teeth seem like rows of very beautiful swans in the water. And your scattered hair resembles swarms of bumblebees following the beauty of your face. My mind is already restless, and by playing with a ball, moving it all about with your lotus-like palm, you are also agitating my eyes. Your curling black hair is now scattered, but you are not attractive to agitate, are also agitating my eyes. Your curling black hair
разметавшиеся волосы, словно рой пчел, вьющийся вокруг твоего прелестного лица. Ум мой и так уже охвачен волнением, а теперь еще и глаза потеряли покой. Они мечутся, пытаясь уследить за мечом, который ты подбрасываешь своей подобно.
Your curling black hair is now scattered, but you are not attentive to arranging it. Are you not going to arrange it? Like a man attached to women, the most cunning wind is trying to take off your lower garment. Are you not mindful of it? O best among those performing austerities, where did you get this wonderful beauty that dismantles the austerities performed by others? Where have you learned this art? What austerity have you undergone to achieve this beauty, my dear friend? I desire that you join me to perform austerity and penance, for it may be that the creator of this of the universe, Lord Brahma, being pleased with me, has sent you to become my wife. Lord Brahma, who is worshipped by the Brahmanas, has very mercifully given you to me, and that's why I have met you. I do not want to give up your company, for my mind and my eyes are fixed upon you, and cannot be drawn away. O woman, what beautifully raised breasts! With beautifully raised breasts, I am your follower. You may take me wherever you like, and your friends may also follow me. Shukadev Goswami continued, Maharaj Agnidra, whose intelligence was like that of a demigod, knew the art of flattering women to win them to his side. He therefore pleased that celestial girl with his lusty words and gained her favor. Attracted by the intelligence, learning youth, beauty, behavior, opulence, and magnanimity of Agnidra, the king of Jambudvi, and master of all heroes, Purvachiti lived with him for many thousands of years, and luxuriously enjoyed both worldly and heavenly happiness. In the womb of Purvachiti, Maharaj Agnidra, the best of kings, begot 9 sons, named Nabi, Kimpurusha, Harivasha, Ilvrita, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. Purvachiti gave birth to these 9 sons, one each year after they grew up. She left them at home and again approached Lord Brahma to worship him. Because of drinking the breast milk of their mothers, the 9 sons of Agnidra naturally had strong, well-built bodies. Their father gave them each a kingdom in a different part of Jambudvip. The kingdoms were named according to the names of the sons. Thus the sons of Agnidra ruled the kingdoms they received from their father. After Purvachiti's departure, King Agnidra, his lusty desires not at all satisfied, always thought of her. Therefore, in accordance with the Vedic injunctions, the king, after his death, was promoted to the same planet as his celestial wife. That planet, which is called Pitraloka, is where the Pittas, the forefathers, live in great delight. After the departure of their father, the 9 brothers married the 9 daughters of Meru, named Meru Devi, Partirupa, Ugradamshritri, Lata, Ramya, Shamya, Nari, Bhadra, and Devati. Devaviti. Thus ends the second chapter of the 5th canto, Activities of Maharaj Agnidra. Chapter 3. Rishabdev's appearance in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabhi. Shukadev Goswami continued to speak. Maharaj Nabi, the son of Agnidra, wished to have sons, and therefore he attentively began to offer prayers and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the master and enjoyer of all sacrifices. Maharaj Nabi's wife, Meru Devi, who had not given birth to any children at that time, also worshipped Lord Vishnu along with her husbands. In the performance of a sacrifice, there are 7 transcendental means to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By sacrificing valuable things or eatables, by acting in terms of place, by acting in terms of time, by offering hymns, by going through the priest, by offering gifts to the priest, and by observing the regulative principles. However, one cannot always obtain the Supreme Lord through this paraphernalia. Nonetheless, the Lord is affectionate to his devotee. Therefore, when Maharaj Nabi, who was a devotee, worshipped and offered prayers to the Lord with great faith and devotion, with a pure, uncontaminated mind, superficially performing some yagya in his line of pravarya, the kind of Supreme Personality of Godhead, due to his affection for his devotees, appeared before King Nabi in his unconquerable and captivating form with 4 hands. In this way, to fulfill the desire of his devotee, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested himself in his beautiful body before his devotees. This body pleased the mind and eyes of the devotees. Lord Vishnu appeared before King Nabi with 4 arms. He was very bright, and he appeared to be the best of all personalities. Around the lower portion of his body, he wore a yellow silken garment. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, which always displayed beauty. He carried a conch shell, lotus flower, disc, and club, and he wore a garland of forest flowers and the kashtubha. He was beautifully decorated with a helmet, earrings, bangles, belt, pearl necklace, armlets, ankle belt, and other bodily ornaments, bedecked with radiant jewels. Seeing the Lord present before them, King Nabi and his priests, the associates, felt just like poor people who have suddenly attained great riches. They received the Lord and respectably bent their heads and offered him thanks and worship.
Желая оказать Господу достойный прием, они в почтении склонились перед Ним и поднесли
The
Ему
priests began to offer
подобающие
prayers to the
дары.
Lord, saying, O most
Жрецы начали
worshipable
возносить:
one, we are simply your servants. Although you are full in yourself, please, out of your causeless mercy, accept a little service from us, your eternal servants. We are not actually aware of your transcendental form, but we can simply offer our respectful obeisances again and again. As you instructed by the Vedic literatures and as instructed by the Vedic literatures and authorized acharyas. Materialistic living entities are very much attracted to the modes of material nature, and therefore they are never perfect. But you are above the jurisdiction of all material conceptions. Your name, form, qualities are all transcendental and beyond the conception of experimental knowledge. Indeed, who can conceive of you? In the material world,
Кому под силу постичь тебя? Живя в материальном мире, мы воспринимаем только материальные
we can perceive
имена и
only material
качества,
names
поэтому
and
нам
qualities.
остается лишь кланяться и молиться Тебе.
We have no
О
other
трансцендентный.
power than to offer our respectful obeisances and prayers unto you, the transcendental person. The chanting of your auspicious transcendental qualities will wipe out the sins of all mankind. That is the most auspicious activity for us, and we can thus partially understand your supernatural position. O Supreme Lord, you are full in every respect. You are certainly very satisfied when your devotees offer you prayers with faltering voices, and in ecstasy bring you tulsi leaves, water, twigs bearing new leaves, and newly grown grass. This surely makes you satisfied. We have engaged in your worship with many things and have offered sacrifices unto you, but we think that there is no need for so many arrangements to please you, to please your Lordship. All of life's goals and opulences are directly, self-sufficiently, unceasingly, and unlimitedly increasing in you at every moment. Indeed, you are unlimited enjoyment and blissful existence itself. As far as we are concerned, O Lord, we are always after material enjoyments. You do not need all these sacrificial arrangements, but they are meant for us so that we may be benedicted by your Lordship. All these sacrifices are performed for our fruitive results, and they are not actually needed by you. O Lord of Lords, we are completely ignorant of the execution of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the processes of liberation, because we do not actually know the goal of life. You have appeared personally before us like a person soliciting worship, but actually you are present here just so we can see you. You have come out of your abundant and causeless mercy in order to serve our purpose, our interest, and give us the benefit of your personal glory called Apavarga, liberation. You have come, although you are not properly worshipped by us and due to our ignorance. O most worshipable of all, you are the best of all benefactors, and your appearance at saintly King Nabi's sacrificial arena is meant for our benediction. Because you have been seen by us, you have bestowed upon us the most valuable benediction. Dear Lord, we may not be able to remember your name, form, and qualities due to stumbling, hunger, falling down, yawning, or being in a miserable disease condition at the time of death, when there is a high fever. We therefore pray unto you, O Lord, for you are very affectionate to your devotees. Please
Когда
help us
человек
remember you and utter your
спотыкается,
holy
падает
names,
или
attributes, and
испытывает сильный
activities,
голод,
which can
когда он лежит
dispel
на
all
смертном
the
одре,
reactions
и
of
тело
our
его
sinful
измучено
lives.
недугами и охвачено жаром, или
Dear
даже
Lord,
когда он
here
просто
is the
зовет,
great King Nabi, whose ultimate
когда он
goal
даже
in
просто
life is to
зевает,
have a
ему
son like
нелегко
you.
помнить
Your
твое имя,
Lordship,
образ и качество.
Your Lordship,
Поэтому,
his
о
position
Господь,
is
мы
like
молим
that of
Тебя,
a person
Ты очень
approaching
любишь своих
a very
преданных,
rich man
так помоги
and
же
begging
нам
for a
всегда
little
помнить о
grain.
Тебе. Помоги
Maharaj Nabi
произносить
is
Твои
so
святые
desirous
имена
of having a
и
son
прославлять Твои
that he is
качества
worshipping
и
you for
деяния,
a son,
способные смыть всю
although you
скверну
can offer
наших
any exalted
грехов.
position,
О Верховный
including
Владыка,
elevation,
взгляни
to
на
the
славного
heavenly
царя
planets
Надхи.
for liberation
Он
back to
обращается к Тебе
Godhead.
с просьбой исполнить
Dear
его
Lord,
самое
unless
сокровенное
one worships
желание,
the lotus feet
наградить
of
его
great
сыном,
devotees, one will be conquered by
подобным
the
Твоей
illusory
милости.
energy, and his
Однако,
intelligence will be
это все
bewildered.
равно, что
Indeed,
попросить у
who has
богача
not been carried
пригоршню
away
зерна.
by the waves of
Желание
material
Махараджи
enjoyment,
Надхи
which are
иметь
like
достойного сына
poison?
столь
Your
велико,
illusory
что
energy
он
is
больше ни о чем
unconquerable. No one
не
can
просит,
see which
хотя Ты
path of
можешь
this
даровать
material
ему
energy
любые
or tell
благословения,
how it is
в том
working.
числе и
O
право
Lord,
подняться на
you
райские
perform
планеты,
many wonderful
или же
activities.
получить
Our only
освобождение
aim
и
was to
вернуться в
acquire a
Царство
son by
Бога.
performing this great
О
sacrifice.
Всевышний, тот,
Therefore,
кто
our
не
intelligence
поклоняется
is not
лотосным
very
стопам
sharp.
великих преданных,
We are not
непременно
experienced in
станет жертвой
ascertaining life
иллюзорной
goals.
энергии,
By
которая
inviting you
украдет его
to
разум.
this
Найдется
negligible
ли хоть
sacrifice for some
кто-нибудь
material
в
motive,
этом
we
мире,
have certainly
кого не
committed
унесли
a
бы
great
волны
offense at
подобных
your
явным
lotus feet.
мирских
Therefore, O
наслаждений?
Lord of
Твоя
Lords,
иллюзорная
please excuse our
материальная
offense
энергия
because of your
неодолима.
causeless mercy
Никто не в
and
силах
equal
постичь,
mind.
как она
Sri
действует.
Shukadev
Но
Goswami
Господь,
said,
Твои
the priests
бесчисленные
who were
деяния
even worshipped by
воистину
King Nabi
удивительны.
and
Мы
the
провели
emperor
это
of
великое
Bharatvarsha
жертвоприношение
offered
лишь ради
prayers
того,
to prose
чтобы Ты дал
in
нашему
prose.
царю сына.
Generally, they were in
Это
poetry.
показывает, что
And
мы
bowed
не
down at
отличаемся
the Lord's
разумом
lotus
и
feet.
не
The
понимаем,
Lord
в
of
чем
Lords, the
истинная
ruler of the
цель
demigods,
жизни.
was very
Наше
pleased with them, and
жертвоприношение
he began to
недостойно
speak
Твоего
as
внимания,
follows.
ибо оно
The
проводится
Supreme
с корыстной
Personality of
целью,
Godhead
и
replied,
пригласив Тебя на
O
него,
great
мы,
sages,
конечно
I am
же,
certainly
нанесли
very
Твоим
pleased
лотосным
with your
стопам
prayers.
тяжкое
You are all
оскорбление
truthful.
богов.
You have
Ты
prayed for the
всегда
benediction
сохраняешь
of a son
самообладание
like
и
me
готов
for King
проявить
Nabi.
свою беспричинную
But
милость.
this is very
Поэтому мы
difficult to
молим
obtain.
Тебя,
Since I
прости
am the Supreme
нам,
Person
пожалуйста,
without a second,
эти
and since
прегрешения.
no one is equal to me,
Шри Шукадева
another
Госвами
personality
сказал,
like me is not
жрецы,
possible to
которых
find.
почитал сам
In
царь
any
Надхи,
case,
император
because you are all
Бхаратварши,
qualified
не
brahmanas,
вознесли
your vibration should not
Господу
prove
молитвы
untrue. I consider the
в прозе,
brahmanas who
обычно
are well
молитвы
qualified with
возносили
brahminical
в стихах,
qualities to be as
и
good as my
склонились
own mouth.
к его лотосным
Since I cannot
стопам.
find
Верховный
anyone
Господь, повелитель
equal to
богов,
me, I shall
остался очень доволен
personally
жрецами и
expand
ответил
myself
им
into a
так.
plenary
Верховный
portion
Господь
and thus
сказал,
advent
«О
myself in
мудрейший,
the womb
я
of
очень доволен
Meradevi,
вашими
the
молитвами,
wife of
уста
Maharaj
ваши всегда
Nabi, the
изрекают
son
истину.
of
Вы
Agnidra.
попросили у меня благословения
Shukadev
для
Goswami
царя Надхи,
continued.
который пожелал
After saying
зачать
this,
такого
the
сына,
Lord
как я.
disappeared.
Однако
The wife of King
исполнить
Nabi,
его
Queen
желание
Merudevi,
непросто,
was sitting
ибо
by
я
the side of her
верховная
husband,
личность,
and
единственная и
consequently
неповторимая.
she could hear
У меня нет
everything the
равных,
Supreme Lord
и
had spoken.
найти другого такого, как я,
O Vishnu
невозможно.
Datta, Parikshit
Но поскольку
Maharaj, the
все вы
Supreme
достойные
Personality of
браманы,
Godhead,
нельзя
was
допустить,
pleased
чтобы слова ваши
by the
были
great
сказаны
sages at the
впустую.
sacrifice.
Для
Consequently,
меня
the
браманы,
Lord decided
наделенные
to
всеми
personally exhibit the
браманическими
method of
браманскими
executing religious
добродетелями,
principles,
все равно, что
as
мои
observed by
собственные
brahmacharis,
уста.
sannyasis,
И я не
vanaprasthas,
нахожу
and
равного
grihastas
себе,
engaged
поэтому я
in
сам
rituals,
в образе своего
and also
всемогущего
satisfied
воплощения
Maharaj
войду
Nabi's
в лоно
desire.
Мерудеви, жены
Consequently,
Махараджи
he
Надхи.
appeared as the son
Шукадева
of
Госвами
Merudevi in his
продолжал.
original spiritual
Произнеся
form,
эти слова,
which is above
Верховный
the
Господь
modes
исчез.
of material
Царица
nature.
Мерудеви, жена
Thus
Махараджи
in
Надхи,
chapter 3,
сидела
the
рядом
5th
с
canto,
мужем и
Rishabh
слышала
Dev
все, что
appearance
сказал
in the
Господь.
womb of Merudevi, the wife of
Вишну
King
Датта,
Nabhi.
Махараджа Парикшит. Верховный Господь остался доволен великими мудрецами, проводившими это жертвоприношение, и согласился исполнить желание Махараджи Набхи. Кроме того, он решил сам показать, как нужно следовать заповедям религии, предназначенным для брахмачари, саньяси, монапрасх, а также грихасх, совершающих различные обряды. И тогда он нисшел в этот мир в своем нетленном духовном теле, которое не подвластно гунам материальной природы, и стал сыном Мерудеви. Конец 3 главы.
Chapter 4. The characteristics of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Шри Шукадева Госвами сказал:
Sri Shukadev Goswami said,
сын Махараджи Набхи,
as soon as the
с
Lord
самого
was
рождения
born as the
носил на
son of
своем теле
Maharaj
божественные
Nabi,
знаки,
he manifested
например,
symptoms
знаки
of
на
the Supreme
ступнях,
Lord,
флаг, молнии и
such
так
as
далее.
marks
Этот
on the
ребенок
bottoms
ко
of
всем
his feet,
относился
the
одинаково
flag,
и был
thunderbolt, and
необычайно
so on.
спокойным и
This son
умиротворенным.
was equal to
Он в
everyone and
совершенстве
very
владел
peaceful.
своими
He
чувствами
could
и
control his
умом,
senses
и
and his
хотя его
mind,
окружали
and possessing all
несметные
opulence, he
богатства
did
и
not
роскошь,
hanker for
был
material
равнодушен
enjoyment.
к мирским
Endowed with all
удовольствиям.
these attributes,
Сила
the
и
son of
могущество
Maharaj
сына
Nabi
Махараджи
became
Набхи
more powerful
росли с каждым
day
днем.
after day.
И,
Due
видя
to
его
this, the
замечательные
citizens,
качества,
learned brahmanas,
ученые
demigods, and
брахманы,
ministers wanted
царедворцы,
Rishabdev
простые люди,
to be appointed
все
ruler of the earth.
хотели, чтобы землей
When the
правил
son of
именно он.
Maharaj Nabi became visible, he
Вскоре после того, как сын
evinced
Махараджи
all
Набхи
good qualities
появился на свет, стало
described by the
ясно,
great
что он
poets,
наделен
namely
всеми
a well-built
совершенствами,
body
которые
with all the
воспевают
symptoms
великие
of a
поэты.
godhead,
Тело
prowess,
его
strength,
отмечено всеми
beauty,
божественными знаками,
name,
было
fame,
прекрасно сложено.
influence, and
Ему
enthusiasm.
сопутствовала слава, и
When
он
the father,
обладал
Maharaj
силой,
Nabi,
красотой,
saw all these
отвагой
qualities, he
и
thought his
могуществом.
son to be the
Увидев
best of human beings,
все эти
or the
достоинства,
supreme being.
Махараджа Набхи
Therefore, he
решил,
gave him the name
что его
Rishabha.
сын лучший из людей и
Indra, the
величайший
king
из
of heaven,
живых
who was
существ,
very materially
поэтому он
opulent,
назвал его Ришабхой.
became envious of King
Как-то
Rishabdev.
раз могущественный царь
Consequently, he
Индра,
stopped pouring
владыка
water on the
несметных
planet on
богатств,
his barbed bush.
позавидовал царю Ришабхадеви и
At the
перестал
time, the
проливать
Supreme Lord
дожди на
Rishabdev, the
его
master
царство,
of all mystic power, understood King
планету,
Indra's
на его
purpose and
царство,
smiled a
планету,
little.
которая сейчас
Then, by
называется
his own
Бхаратаварши.
prowess, through
В
Yogamaya,
ответ
his
на
internal
это
potency,
Ришабхадева,
he
Верховный
profusely
Господь,
poured
повелитель
water
всех
upon his own
мистических сил,
place,
лишь
which was
слегка
known as
усмехнулся.
Ajannabha.
Понимая, какую цель
Due to
преследовал
getting
Индра,
a perfect
Господь
son,
решил явить
according to his
собственное
desire,
могущество
King Nabi
и
was
с
always
помощью
overwhelmed with
своей
transcendental
внутренней
bliss
энергии
and was
Йога-майи
very
оросил
affectionate to
все
his
свое
son.
царство.
It was with
Аджанабху
ecstasy and a faltering voice
щедрым
that he
дождями.
addressed him. My dear
Мечты
son,
Махараджи
my
Набхи
darling,
сбылись. У
this
него родился идеальный
mentality was
сын.
brought about by
Переполненный
Yogamaya,
отцовской нежностью,
whereby he
царь
accepted the
все время
Supreme
был
Lord,
погружен
the
в
Supreme
духовное
Father, as his
блаженство.
own son.
Сыночек мой
Out of
ненаглядный,
his supreme
звал он его
goodwill, the
дрожащим
Lord
от
became his
радости
son
голосом.
and dealt
Эти
with
чувства
everyone as
Махараджи
if he
Набхи
were an
были
ordinary human
вызваны
being.
Йога-майей,
Thus
под
King
влиянием
Nabi
которой
began to
он считал
raise
Верховного Господа,
his
Отца,
transcendental son with
но
great affection, and he was overwhelmed with
всех
transcendental
живых
bliss,
существ
joy, and devotion.
своим сыном.
King Nabi understood
Еще раз прочитаю
that his
это
son,
предложение.
Rishabh,
Эти чувства Махараджи Набхи были вызваны Йога-майей,
Rishabdev was
влиянием
very
которой
popular among
он
the
считал
citizens
Верховного Господа,
and among
Отца
government
всех живых
officers
существ
and
своим
ministers.
сыном.
Understanding the popularity of
Господь
his
сам по
son,
своей
Maharaj
высшей
Nabi
божественной
enthroned
воле
him
стал
as the
сыном
emperor
Махараджи
of the
Набхи
world
и
to
играл
give
роль
protection to the general
обыкновенного
populace in
ребенка.
terms of the Vedic religious system.
Так царь Набхи,
To do this,
испытывая
he entrusted him
невиданное
into the
блаженство с
hands of
великой
learned
любовью и
brahmanas,
преданностью,
who would
простил
guide
своего
him in administrating the
трансцендентного сына.
government.
Когда царь Набхи
Then,
увидел,
Maharaj
что его
Nabi
сына
and his wife,
любят и
Merudevi,
уважают как
went to
простые
Badrak
подданные,
Ashram
так
in the
и
Himalaya mountains,
государственные мужи,
where the king engaged
он
himself
возвел
very
Ришабхадеву на
expertly in
престол
austerities
и
and
сделал его императором мира.
penances with great
Он поручил
jubilation.
ему защищать
In
своих
full
подданных,
samadhi,
как
he worshipped the
предписывают
Supreme
Веды,
Personality of
и
Godhead,
верил
Nara
его
Narayana,
заботам
who is Krishna
ученых
in his
брахманов,
plenary
чтобы они
expansion.
своими
By doing
наставлениями
so, in
помогали
course
ему
of time,
править
Maharaj
царством.
Nabi
После
was
этого
elevated
Махараджа
to the
Набхи
spiritual world
вместе с
known
женой
as
Мирудеви
Vaikuntha.
ушел в Гималаи,
O Maharaj
Бадрикасам,
Parikshit,
и,
to
словно
glorify
искушенный
Maharaj
подвижник, с
Nabi,
радостью в
the
сердце
old sages
посвятил себя
composed two
аскезе.
verses. One of them is
Погрузившись в
this:
самадхи, он
Who can attain the
поклонялся
perfection of
Верховному
Maharaj
Господу
Nabi?
в образе
Who can attain
Нара-Нараяны,
who can attain his
всемогущего воплощения
activities?
Кришны.
Because of
И
his
спустя
devotional
некоторое
service, the
время
Supreme
вознесся в
Personality of
духовный
Godhead
мир на
agreed to
Вайкунтх.
become his son.
О Махараджа Парикшит,
The second prayer is
честь
this:
царя Набхи,
Who is a better worshipper of brahmanas than Maharaj
сложили два
Nabi?
стиха. Вот первый
Because
из
he
них.
worshipped the qualified
Кто еще
brahmanas to their
способен
full
достичь такого
satisfaction?
же совершенства, как Махараджа Набхи?
The
Кому
Brahmanas, by their
под силу
Brahminical prowess,
совершить
showed
подобные
Maharaj
деяния,
Nabi, the Supreme
награду за
Personality of
его
Godhead,
преданное
Narayana,
служение,
in
сам
person.
Бог, Верховная Личность,
After Nabi,
согласился стать
Maharaj
его
departed
сыном.
for Badrak
А
Ashram.
второй стих таков. Найдется ли кто-нибудь, кто служил бы
The Supreme Lord,
Брахманам лучше, чем
Rishabdev,
Махараджа
understood that
Набхи?
his kingdom
Поклоняясь
was his field
достойным
of
Брахманам,
activities.
Махараджа
He
Набхи
therefore showed
полностью
himself
удовлетворил их,
as
и
an
они, имея
example
свое
and taught the
брахманское
duties of a
могущество,
householder by first
показали ему
accepting
самого
brahmacharya
Нараяну,
under the
Верховного
direction
Господа.
of spiritual
После
masters.
того, как
He
Махараджа
also went
Набхи
to
ушел в
live at the
Бадрикашам,
spiritual master's
Верховный
place,
Господь
Gurukul,
Ришабхадева вступил на престол
After
и
his
ощутил
education was
себя
finished, he gave
полноправным
gifts, Guru
императором.
Dakshina,
Теперь
to
у
his
него было
spiritual
царство,
masters,
где он мог
and
вершить свои
then
деяния.
accepted the life of a
Тогда он начал
householder.
собственным
He
примером
took a wife
показывать
named
людям, как
Jayanti
нужно
and
выполнять
begot
обязанности
100
семейного
sons who were
человека.
as powerful
Прежде
and
всего,
qualified
он
as he
поселился
himself.
в Гурукуле,
His wife
ашраме, где
Jayanti
живут
had been
духовные
offered to
учители,
him by
и
Indra,
под их
the king of
руководством стал
heaven.
вести жизнь
Rishabdev
брахмачари.
and
А
Jayanti
когда его
performed
учеба
householder
в
life in an
Гурукуле подошла
exemplary
к
way,
концу,
carrying
он
out
поднес своим
ritualistic
наставникам
activities
дары,
ordained by the
Гуру-дакшину,
Shrutis and
и
Smriti
затем
Shastras.
обзавелся семьей. Его женой стала Джаянти, которую он получил в дар от
Of
Индры,
Rishabdev's
царя
100
небес.
sons,
Она
the
родила
eldest,
ему
named
100
Bharat, was a
сыновей,
great,
таких же
exalted devotee,
могущественных и
qualified with the best
добродетельных, как он
attributes.
сам.
In his honor,
и Джаянти
this planet has
явили миру
become
образец
known
идеальной
as
семейной жизни,
Bharatvarsh.
совершая все обряды,
Following Bharat,
указанные
there
в
were
Смрити
99
Шастрах.
other sons.
Старший сын
Among these
Ришабхадевы,
were 9
Бхарата,
elderly sons
был
named
великим преданным Господа и
Kushavarta,
обладал всеми возвышенными
Ilavarta,
качествами. В его
Brahmavarta,
честь эту планету стали
Malaya,
называть
Ketu,
Бхаратаваршей.
Bandrasena,
После Бхараты,
Indrashпи,
Ришабхадевы и Джаянти родились еще
Vidarbha,
99 сыновей.
and
9
Kikata.
старших из них
In addition to
звали
these sons were
Кушаварта,
Kavi, Havi,
Илаварта,
Antariksha,
Брахмаварта,
Prabhuda,
Малая, Кету, Бхадрасена, Индраспри,
Pipalayana,
Видарха и
Avihotra,
Киката.
Drumila, Chamasa, and
Следующие сыновья
Karabhanjana.
Хави, Антарикша,
These were all very exalted, advanced devotees
Авирхотра,
and
Друмила,
authorized teachers of
Чамаса,
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Чамаса и Карабхаджана стали очень
These devotees
возвышенными,
were glorified due to their strong devotion to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
признанными
Therefore, they were very
проповедниками учения
exalted.
Шримад Бхагаватам. Они достигли
To satisfy the mind
высочайшего
perfectly,
уровня
I,
и
Shukadev
славились
Goswami, shall
своей
herein
непоколебимой
describe the
преданностью.
characteristics of these 9
Vasudevе
devotees
верховной личности
when I
Бога.
discuss the conversations
Описание
between
их
Narada
качеств
and Vasudeva.
приносит уму полное
In addition to these
удовлетворение.
19
И я,
sons mentioned
Шукадева
above,
Госвами,
there were
поведаю
81
об этих
younger
9
ones, all
преданных
born of
позже,
Rishabdev and
когда
Jayanti.
буду пересказывать
According to
беседы
the
Нарады
order
и
of their
Васудевы.
father,
Младшие сыновья
they
Ришабхадевы
became
и
well-cultured,
Джаянти,
well-behaved,
родившиеся после
very prudent,
19,
and their activities and expert in
уже
Vedic
перечисленных
knowledge and performance
по
of Vedic
воле
rituals.
отца, получили
Thus, they
самое
all
лучшее
became
образование
perfectly
и
qualified
воспитание. Они
brahmanas.
глубоко изучали Веды, знали, как
Being an
проводить
incarnation of
ведические
the
обряды,
Supreme
и
Personality
все
of
их
Godhead, Lord
поступки были
Rishabdev
чисты. Иными
was
словами,
fully independent
все
because of
они,
his form was
81
spiritual,
сын,
eternal, and
стали
full
настоящими
of transcendental
брахманами.
bliss.
Господь
He eternally had
Ришабхадева,
nothing to do
воплощение
with the
верховной
four
личности
principles
Бога,
of material
был совершенно
misery,
независим,
birth,
ибо
death,
он
old
пришел на
age, and
землю в
disease,
своем вечном
nor
духовном
was he
теле,
materially attached.
исполненном
He was
трансцендентного
always
блаженства,
equipoised, and
не
he
подвластный
saw
рождению,
everyone on
смерти,
the same
старости
level.
и болезням.
He was
Он
unhappy
всегда
to see
оставался
others
свободным
unhappy,
от
and he
материальных
was a
страданий
well-wisher
и
of all living
привязанностей.
entities.
Неизменно
Although he was a perfect
беспристрастный,
personality,
он
the Supreme
одинаково
Lord and
относился ко
controller
всем
of
живым
all,
существам.
he nonetheless acted
Несчастья
as if he were an
других
ordinary
огорчали его,
conditioned
и
soul.
он каждому
Therefore, he
желал только добра. Верховный Господь, Владыка всего сущего,
strictly followed the principles of Varnashram Dharma and acted
однако он играл
accordingly.
роль
In due course of time, the principles of Varnashram Dharma had become neglected. Therefore, through his personal characteristics and behavior, he taught the ignorant public how to perform duties within the Varnashram Dharma. In this way, he regulated the general populace in householder life, engaging them to develop religion and economic well-being and to attain reputations, son and daughters, material pleasure, and finally eternal life. By his instructions, he showed how people could remain householders and at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Whatever action is performed by great men, common men follow. Although Rishabdev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus he ruled the world, the people, according to the system of Varnashram Dharma, which enjoys the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas, and the Kshatriyas administer the state through the Vaishyas and Shudras. Lord Rishabdev performed all kinds of sacrifices, 100 times according to the instructions of the Vedic literature. Thus he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first-class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who are all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu Lord Vishnu was worshipped, and the prasad was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and festivals were all successful. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will-o'-the-wisps or a flower in the sky, for everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabdev ruled this planet of Bharadvarsh, every common men, even common men, did not want to ask for anything at the time, or by any means. No one ever asked for will-o'-the-wisps. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. While touring the world, Lord Rishabdev, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. There was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmanas there. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdev instructed his sons, although they were already well-behaved, devoted, and qualified. He instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus he spoke as follows. Thus ends chapter 4 of the 5th canto, Characteristics of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Конец 4 главы. Глава 5. Пятая песнь. Господь Ришабхадева дает наставление своим сыновьям. Обращаясь к своим сыновьям, Господь Ришабхадева сказал:
Chapter 5. Lord Rishabdev's teachings to his son. Lord Rishabdev told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal, blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should never render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another.
Кто старается пробудить в себе сознание Кришны и развить любовь к Богу, не привлекают занятия, которые They
are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have to take on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear. And as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interest around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. When the strong knot is in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principles of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus one goes to the transcendental world. O my son, you should accept the highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth. Then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord, and look upon everyone equally on the Supreme platform. Give up enmity and subtle anger and limitation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Then practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. If one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, then he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. If he is a father instructing his son, a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions, even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activities his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man into a dark well and causing him to fall in. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to his mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow for this.
Неужели он позволит ему продолжать свой путь? Мудрые и добросердечные
One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. My transcendental body, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, looks exactly like a human form, but it is not a material human body. It is inconceivable. I am not forced by nature to accept a particular type of body. I take on my body by my own sweet will. My heart is also spiritual, and I always think of the welfare of my devotees. Therefore, within my heart can be found the process of devotional service, which is meant for the devotees. Far from my heart I have abandoned irreligion, adharma, and non-devotional activities. Thereby do not appeal to me. They do not appeal to me. Due to all these transcendental qualities, people generally pray to me as Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all living entities. My dear boys, you are all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like a materialistic and envious man. You should accept your eldest brother's Bharat, who is exalted in devotional service. If you engage yourself in Bharat service,
Вы тем самым будете служить мне
your
и без труда
service to
сможете
him will include
править
my
своими
service,
подданными.
and you will
Из всех
rule the
проявленных
citizens automatically.
обеих энергий
Of the two energies manifest,
материи
spirit
духа,
and dull
те,
matter,
в которых
beings,
присутствует жизненная
processing
сила,
living force,
трава,
vegetables,
овощи,
grass,
деревья и
trees,
другие
and plants,
растения,
are
занимают
superior to
более
dull
высокое
matter, stone,
положение,
earth,
чем
and so on.
неодушевленная
Superior to
материя,
non-moving
камни,
plants
земля и
and vegetables
прочее,
are worms
выше
and snakes,
растений и
which
других неподвижных существ,
can move.
черви и змеи, ибо они способны
Superior to worms and
передвигаться.
snakes are
Выше
animals
червей
that have
и
been
змей
developed
стоят животные,
intelligence.
обладающие более
Superior
развитым
to
сознанием.
animals are human
Выше
beings,
животных
and superior to
люди,
human beings are
но
ghosts,
еще более
because they have no
высокое
material bodies.
положение.
Superior to
Занимают
ghosts are the Gandharvas,
привидения,
and
потому
superior
что
to
у них
them are the
нет грубого
Siddhas.
материального
Superior to
тела.
the Siddhas
Выше
are the
привидений стоят
Kinnaras.
ганхарвы,
Superior to
а
them
выше
are the
их
Asuras.
ситхи, выше
Superior to the
ситхов
Asuras are the
нары,
demigods,
выше их
or the
асуры,
demigods. Indra,
выше
the king of
асуров
heaven, is supreme.
полубоги,
Superior
а
to
из
Indra is the
полубогов
direct son
главный
of Brahma,
Индра, царь
sons
небес.
like
Выше
King
Индры
Daksha,
стоят
and
сыновья Господа
among
Брамы,
them,
такие как царь Дакша,
among them,
среди них
Brahma's son
величайший
is Lord
Господь
Shiva.
Шива.
Since
Поскольку
Lord
Господь
Shiva
Шива,
is the son
сын
of Lord
Господа
Brahma,
Брамы, считается,
Brahma is
что
considered
занимает более
superior.
высокое
But Brahma is
положение.
also
Однако сам
subordinate to
Брахма
me, the
подчиняется
supreme
мне,
personality of
Верховному
Godhead,
Господу, а выше
because
всех
I am
стоят
inclined
брахманы, ибо они
to the Brahmanas.
особенно
The
дороги мне.
Brahmanas are the best of all.
Затем Господь Ришабхадева
O respectful Brahmanas,
обратился
as far as
к
I'm
собравшимся
concerned,
брахманам. О досточтимые, я считаю, что нет в этом мире существа
no
более
one is
великого,
equal
чем
or superior to the
брахманы,
Brahmanas in
или
this world.
равного им.
I do
Я
not
не
find
нахожу
anyone
никого,
comparable to
кто
them.
мог бы сравниться с
When
брахманами.
people
И
know
тот,
my motive
кто
after
знает,
performing rituals
как
according
мне
to the Vedic
угодить,
principles,
совершает
they offer
предписанные
food
веды
to me
обряды, а в конце
with faith and
с
love
верой и любовью
through the mouth
подносит
of the
мне
Brahmanas.
угощение через
When
уста
food is thus
брахманов.
offered unto
Такую
me,
пищу
I eat
я
it with full
съедаю с
satisfaction.
гораздо большим
Indeed, I
удовольствием,
derive
чем
more
ту,
pleasure from
что
food
предлагают
offered
мне
in that
во
way
время
than from
огненного
the food offered
жертвоприношения.
in the sacrificial
Веды
fire.
предоставляют собой
The Vedas are my
мое
internal
вечное,
transcendental sound incarnation.
представляют собой мое вечное
Therefore, the
трансцендентное
Vedas are
воплощение в
Shabda
звуке.
Brahma.
Поэтому
In this
их
world, the
называют
Brahmanas,
Шабда
through
Брахма.
study of Vedas,
Из всех
and because they
обитателей этого мира
assimilate the Vedic
только брахманы
conclusions, they
глубоко
are also
изучают
considered
веды, и поскольку они
the
усваивают
Vedas
самую суть
personified.
ведического знания, их следует читать
The Brahmanas are
ускорением
situated
вед.
in the supreme transcendental
Брахманы
mode of
пребывают
nature,
в высшей
Sattva-guna.
гуне природы,
Because of this, they are
саттва-гуне.
fixed in mind
Потому им
control,
присущи
Shama, sense
такие
control,
качества,
Dhamma,
как владение
and
своим
truthfulness,
умом,
Satya.
Шема, Шама, и владение чувствами, Дама. Будучи
They describe the
праведными,
Vedas in their
Сатья,
original sense,
они
and out of mercy,
объясняют истинный смысл вед
Anugraha,
и
they
из
preach the
сострадания
purpose of the Vedas
Ануграха
to all conditioned
проповедуют
souls.
ведические учения
They
всем
practice
обусловленным
penance,
душам.
tapasya, and
Они
tolerance,
предаются
tiksha,
аскезе,
and they
тапасе,
realize the
воспитывают
position
у себя
of the living
терпение,
entity
титикша,
and the
и
Supreme Lord.
постигают истинную природу индивидуальной души
Anubhava.
и
These
Верховного
are the 8
Господа
qualifications
Анубхава.
of Brahmanas. Therefore,
Таковы
among
8
all living
добродетелей
entities,
Брахмана.
no one is
Вот
superior
почему
to the
я
Brahmanas.
провозглашаю, что
I am
нет ни
fully
одного
opulent,
живого существа,
almighty, and superior
которое
to Lord
превосходило бы
Brahma and
Брахмана.
Indra, the
Я
king of the
всемогущий,
heavenly
владею
planets.
всеми
I am
богатствами
also the
мира.
bestower
Не
of all
подчиняется
happiness
даже
obtained
Господь
in the
Брахма,
heavenly
царь
kingdom,
Индра,
and by
владыка райских
liberation.
планет. Именно я дарую живым
Nonetheless, the
существам
Brahmanas
райское
do not
счастье и
seek
счастье
material comforts from
освобождения.
me.
Однако
They are
брахманы
very
не
pure and
просят
do
у
not
меня
want to
никаких
possess
материальных
anything.
благословений. Безупречно
They
чистые
simply engage
и
in my
свободные
devotional
от любых
service.
притязаний,
What is the need of
они
their
просто
asking for
служат
material
мне с
benefits
любовью и
from anyone
преданностью.
else?
Так неужели
My
они
dear son,
станут
you
просить
should not
о
envy any living
материальных благах
entity, but he is
кого-то другого?
be he moving or
Итак,
non-moving,
дорогие мои
knowing that I
сыновья,
am situated in them.
не
You
питайте
should offer
злобы
respects
никому
to all
из
of
живых
them at
существ.
every
Будьте,
moment.
будь то
In this way,
движущие или
you offer
неподвижные.
respects to me.
Знайте, что я
The true activity of the sense organs,
пребываю в
mind,
каждом из
sight,
них и
words,
всегда выражаю
and all the
им
knowledge
почтение.
gathering
Тем
and
самым
working
вы
senses
будете
is to
выражать
engage fully
почтение
in my
мне.
service.
Свой ум,
Unless
зрение,
his
речь,
senses are thus
всепознающие органы и
engaged,
органы
a
действия
living
нужно
entity
использовать
cannot
только для
think of
служения
getting
мне.
out of the great
Иначе живому
entanglement of
существу
material
нечего и
existence, which
думать о
is
том,
exactly like
чтобы сбросить с
Yamaraj's
себя путы материального
stringent
бытия,
rope.
которые подобны неодолимой петле
Shukadeva Goswami
Ямараджа.
said, "Thus the great well-wisher of everyone, the
Шукадева
Supreme Lord,
Госвами
Rishabdev,
сказал:
instructed his own sons, although they were perfectly educated and cultured.
Так величайший
He instructed them
доброжелатель
just to
каждого,
set an
Верховный
example
Господь
of how a
Ришабхадева
father should instruct
наставлял
his sons
своих
before
сыновей,
retiring for family
хотя
life.
они
Sannyasi.
До этого уже получил
Sannyasi
прекрасное
who
воспитание
are
и
no
образование.
longer
Он решил собственным примером показать всем, как должен поступать,
sannyasi who are no longer bound by fruitive activity
напутствовать своих
and who
сыновей
have
человек,
taken
который собирается оставить семейную жизнь. Наставления
to devotional
Ришабхадевы
service after all their
особенно важны
material
для
desires have been
саньяси,
vanquished.
тех, кто уже не
Also
связан
learned by
путем
these
кармической
instructions.
деятельности,
Rishabdev
кто,
instructed
полностью избавившись от
one of his
материальных
100
желаний,
sons, of whom the
посвятил
eldest,
себя
Bharat,
преданному служению.
was a very advanced
Из
devotee
100
and follower
сыновей
of the
Ришабхадевы,
Vaishnavas.
внимавших его
In
поучениям,
order to rule the
старший
world,
Бхарата
the whole
был
world,
великим
the
преданным
Lord
истинным
enthroned
вайшнавом.
his eldest son
Ему отец
on the
передал
royal seat.
императорский трон и дал
Thereafter,
наказ
although still at home,
править всем
Lord
миром.
Rishabdev
Затем
liked
еще до того,
lived
как
like
уйти из дома, Господь Ришабхадева стал вести
a
себя как
madman,
безумец.
naked and
Он
with
сбросил с
disheveled
себя
hair.
царские
Then the
одежды
Lord
и ходил
took the sacrificial
обнаженный,
fire
с
within him,
растрепанными
and he left
волосами.
Brahmavarta to
Спустя
tour the
некоторое
whole
время
world.
он возжег в
After accepting
своем
the
сердце
feature of
жертвенный огонь и
Avadut,
покинул
a great
Брахмаварту.
saintly person without material
И покинул
cares,
Брахмаварту,
Lord Rishabdev
начал
passed through
странствовать по
human
свету,
society like a
приняв
blind,
облик
deaf, and
Авадхуты,
dumb man,
великого святого,
an idle stone,
полностью
a
равнодушного к
ghost, or a
материальной жизни.
madman.
Господь
Although
Ришабхадева
people
бродил
called
по
him
миру.
such
Он
names,
казался слепым, немым,
he remained
глухим,
silent and did not
бесчувственным,
speak
словно камень.
to
И
anyone.
люди, видя
Rishabdev
его,
began to
думали,
tour
что
through
это
cities,
привидение или
villages,
сумасшедший.
mines,
Они называли
countrysides,
его разными
valleys,
обидными
gardens, military camps,
прозвищами,
cow
но Господь ни
pens,
словом
and
не
through
отвечал
homes of
им.
cowherd men, transient holes, hills, forests, hermitages.
Путь Ришабхадевы пролегал через города и деревни, поля, рощи, долины, горы и леса. На пути ему встречались рудники, пастбища, хижины пастухов, постоялые дворы, обители отшельников. И где
Simply
бы
by
он
meant for such
ни
an, he was situated in the spiritual platform,
его сразу
in his body being
близкие
spiritual
люди всех мастей,
glory. He did not care for these
подобно
material
оружию,
insults.
что
In
вьется
other
вокруг
words, he
выходящего
being
из леса
he
слона.
completely
Они
understood the
угрожали
matter and
Ришабхадеве,
spirit
били
are
его,
separated. And he had no
мочились
body
на него и
conception.
плевали.
Thus,
Кто-то швырял
without being
в него
angry at anyone,
камни,
he walked through the whole world
испражнения,
alone.
осыпали пылью.
Lord
Кто-то
Rishabdev's hands,
испускал
feet,
перед
and
ним
chest were
газы.
very long.
Люди всячески
His shoulders and
издевались
face
над
and
ним
limbs were all
и
very delicate.
поносили его непристойными словами, но он не обращал на это никакого внимания,
And symmetrically
ибо считал,
portioned. His
что
mouth was beautifully decorated,
его
and his
тело
natural smile.
лучше и не
And he
заслуживает. Лучшего не
appeared all the
заслуживает.
more lovely with his reddish eyes, spread
Всегда
wide
пребывая
like
на
the petals of a
духовном
newly
уровне,
grown lotus
он был
flower,
окружен
covered
ореолом своей
with dew
нетленной
from the
славы
early
и просто
morning.
не замечал
The
всех
iris of
этих
his eyes were so
оскорблений.
pleasing
Другими
that they
словами,
removed all the
он
troubles of
полностью
everyone who
осознавал,
saw him.
он полностью
His
сознавал
forehead, ears,
различные
neck, nose,
различия материи
and all the other
и
features were
был
very
свободен
beautiful.
от телесных
His gentle
представлений.
smile always made
Так он
his face
ни на
beautiful,
кого не
so much
гневался,
so
не
that he
гневаясь,
even attracted
в
the hearts
одиночку
of married
странствовал
women.
по всей земле. Лицо Господа
It was as
Ришабхадевы,
though
его
they had been
длинные
pierced by
руки,
arrows of Cupid.
грудь, ладони, ступни, плечи
Above his head was an
и все
abundance of
остальные
curly,
части
matted
тела
brown hair.
отличались гармонией и изяществом.
His hair was disheveled because his body was dirty, and he did
Уста
not
его
care.
украшала непринужденная
He
улыбка,
did not
а
care of.
широко раскрытые красноватые глаза
He
напоминали
appeared as if he were haunted by
блестящие
ghosts.
от росы лепестки
When Lord Rishabdev saw
только
that the
что
general populace
распустившегося лотоса.
was very antagonistic to his execution of mystic
И
yoga,
придавали лицу
he accepted
Господа
the behavior of a
особое
python
очарование.
in order to
Любой, кому
counteract
доводилось увидеть
their
зрачки его
opposition.
глаз,
Thus he
испытывали
stayed in one
такую
place
радость,
and laid
что
down.
тотчас
While laying down,
избавлялся
he
от
ate
всех
and
тревог.
drank, he passed
Все
stool
черты
and
Господа
urine and
Ришабхадевы,
rolled in it.
его лоб,
Indeed, he
нос,
smeared his
шея,
whole
уши
body with his own
поражали своей
stool and urine,
красотой.
so that
Даже
opposing
замужние
elements might
женщины,
not come to disturb
плененные
him.
его обаятельной улыбкой,
Because Lord
не
Rishabdev
могли
remained
оторвать
in that
взгляд
condition,
от его
in
лица,
public,
как будто
the
их
public did
сердце
not disturb him,
пронзали стрелы
but no bad
огня.
aroma emanated from his body, from his stool and urine.
Вьющиеся темные
Quite the
волосы
contrary.
не
His
спадали
stool and
с его
urine was
головы
so
густыми
aromatic that
косами.
even they
Они были
they filled
спутанными и
80 miles in
ухоженными,
the
потому что
countryside with pleasant
Ришабхадева
fragrance.
совсем не
In
заботился
this
о
way,
своем
Lord
внешности, о
Rishabdev
своей
followed
внешности.
the behaviors of
Тело его
cows,
было покрыто
deers, and crows.
грязью,
Sometimes
и
he
казалось,
moved or walked,
что в него
and sometimes he sat down in
вселилось
one place.
привидение.
Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deers, and crows. In that way, he ate, drank, passed stool and urine, and cheated the people in this way.
Увидев, что его практика
O King
мистической
Parikshit,
йоги вызывает
just show
у
all the
людей
yogis
лишь
in the mystic
неприятие и злобу,
processes.
Господь
Lord
Ришабхадева решил
Rishabdev, the partial
избежать
expansion of
столкновений
Lord
с ними
Krishna,
и
performed
избрал
wonderful
образ жизни
activities.
питона.
Actually, he was the master of liberal of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Like Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is original source of Lord Rishabdev. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rishabdev awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him. He had him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of the mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far away. Far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. Thus end Chapter 5, Canto 5, Lord Rishabdev's teaching to his sons. Chapter 6, the activities of Lord Rishabdev.
Господь Ришабхадева, всемогущее воплощение Господа Кришны, совершал удивительные деяния. Будучи владыкой освобождения, он всегда оставался погруженным в трансцендентное блаженство, которое с каждым мгновением
King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabdev neglect them?" Srila Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals and a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. All the learned scholars have given their opinions. The mind is by nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Subhari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies just like lust, anger, and greed, and will doubtlessly kill the yogi. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activities. What learned man would put faith in the mind? Lord Rishabdev was the head of all kings and emperors in the universe, but assuming the dress and language of an avadut, he acted as if dull and materially bound. Consequently, no one could observe his divine opulence. He adopted this behavior just to teach yogis how to give up the body. Nonetheless, he maintained his original position as a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Remaining always in that state, he gave up his pastimes as Lord Rishabdev within the material world. If following in the footsteps of Lord Rishabdev, one can give up his subtle body, there is no chance that one will accept a material body again. Actually, Lord Rishabdev had no material body, but due to Yoga Maya, he considered his body material. And therefore, because he played like an ordinary human being, he gave up the mentality of identifying with it. Following the principle, he began to wander all over the world. While traveling, he came to the province of Karnataka in South India and passed through Konka, Venka, and
заключить
Kutaka.
союз с врагами,
He had no plan to
вожделением,
travel this
гневом,
way,
жадностью.
but he arrived
И
near
они непременно убьют йога.
Kutaka-chala
Именно
and
он
entered the
является
forest there.
корнем
He placed
вожделения,
stones within
гнева,
his mouth, and he
гордости,
began to wander
жадности,
through the
скорби,
forest,
иллюзий и
naked and
страха.
with his hair disheveled
Таков,
like a
что
madman.
удерживает душу в
While he was
рабстве
wandering
кармической
about, a wild
Так
forest
разве
fire
станет
began.
мудрый человек
This fire was
доверять
caused by
уму?
the friction of bamboos,
Господь
which were
Ришабхадева
being blown by the
был главой
wind.
всех
In that
самодержцев
fire, the
Вселенной,
entire
но,
forest near
несмотря на это,
Kutachakala was
облачившись в
and
одежды
the
Аватхуты,
body of
он
Lord
говорил
Rishabdev
и
were
поступал
burnt to
подобно
ashes.
слабоумному, как
Shukadev
будто был
Goswami
связан
continued
законами
speaking
материального
to
мира,
Maharaj
поэтому
Parikshit,
никто не видел его
My
божественного
dear king,
величия.
the king of
Он вел
Konka,
себя
Vinka,
так
and
лишь ради
Kutaka,
того, чтобы
whose
научить
name was
йогов
Arhat,
покидать тело.
had the
При этом он
activities
всегда
of
оставался
Rishabdev,
всемогущим
and
воплощением
imitating
Господа
Rishabdev's
Васудевы,
principles,
Кришны.
introduced a new system of religion.
Сохраняя это, свое
Taking
изначальное
advantage of
положение,
Kali Yuga,
Господь Ришабхадева завершил
the age of
свою
sinful
игру в материальном
activity,
мире.
King
И тому,
Arhat,
кто,
being
следуя его примеру,
bewildered by
сумеет избавиться от своего тонкого тела,
gave
никогда
up the
больше
Vedic
не
principles,
придется
which are free
воплощаться
from
в
sick,
материальном теле.
risk, and
Хотя
concocted
тело
a new
Господа
system
Ришабхадевы было всецело
of
духовным,
religion
под влиянием
opposed
йога-майи, он считал
Vedas.
его материальным. И поскольку
opposed to the
Господь играл
Vedas.
роль
That was the
человека,
beginning of
он
the
перестал
Jain
отождествлять себя
Dharma.
с телом и
Many
вновь
other
начал
so-called religions
странствовать.
followed this
Он достиг той
atheistic
части
system.
Южной Индии,
People who are lowest among men and
Карната,
bewildered by the
и
illusory
прошел
energy of the
через
Supreme
Конку,
Lord will
Венку
give
и
up the original
Кутаку.
Varnashram
Он
Dharma
шел, куда
and its
глаза
rules
глядят,
and
не разбирая
regulations.
дороги,
They will
и
abandon
оказывался
bathing
в лесу
3 times
близ
daily and worship the
Кутакачалы.
Lord,
Набрав
abandoning
в рот камней,
cleanliness
он обнаженный,
and neglecting the Supreme Lord. They will accept nonsensical principles, not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly. They will always remain unclean, and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally deride
Шукадева Госвами продолжал: «О, царь Парикшит, правитель Конки, Венки
Vedic authority and followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the
станет
devotees.
подражать его поведению Аватхуты.
Low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, had introduced a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles, following their own material concoctions. They automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. In this age of Kali, people are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance.
Создаст религию, противоречащую Ведам. Так возникает
Lord Rishabdev incarnated himself to deliver them from the clutches of Maya.
Появится много других лжерелигий. Введенная в заблуждение иллюзорная энергия Верховного Господа, ничтожнейшие из рода человеческого, отвергнут предписание истинной религии Варнашрама Дхармы. Они перестанут совершать омовение 3 раза в день и поклоняться Господу, пренебрегая элементарной чистотой и забыв о Верховном Господе, они будут слепо выполнять правила, лишенные всякого смысла. Не считая нужным регулярно совершать омовение и полоскать рот, они будут все время осквернены. Кроме того, они станут вырывать свои волосы. Они будут исповедовать лжерелигию, и у них появится великое множество последователей. В век Кали людей больше привлекают безбожные учения.
Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabdev in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharadvaj is considered the most pious. People of Bharadvaj are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnations as Lord Rishabdev and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. Oh, what shall I say of the dynasty of Priyavrata, which is pure and very much celebrated. In that dynasty, the Supreme Person, the original personality of Godhead, descended as an incarnation and executed religious principles that could free one from the results of fruitive activity. Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the examples of Lord Rishabdev, even with his mind? Lord Rishabdev rejected all kinds of yogic perfection which
праведный
other
из них
yogis hanker
брата
to
Варши,
obtain.
жить
Who
жители
is that
брата
yogi who
Варши,
can compare to Lord
испокон
Rishabdev?
веков прославляют деяния
Shukadev
многих
Goswami
воплощений
continued,
Верховной Личности
Lord
Бога,
Rishabdev is the
и среди
master
них
of all
Господа
Vedic knowledge.
Ришабхадеву. Все
Human
деяния
beings,
Верховного Господа
demigods,
несут людям
cows, and
великое
brahmanas.
благо. Найдутся ли слова,
I have already
способные
explained his pure
передать
transcendental
величие и
activities, which
чистоту
will vanquish
славной
the sinful
династии
activities of all living
Приявраты?
entities.
Сам Верховный Господь,
This
изначальный
narration
Сын
of Lord
Бога,
Rishabdev's
пришел на землю,
pastimes
как один
is
из
the
царей
reservoir
этой
of
династии,
all
и
auspicious
соблюдал
things.
религиозные
Whoever
заповеди,
attentively hears or
позволяющие
speaks of
избавиться
them,
от
following
последствий
in the
своих
footsteps of
поступков.
the acharyas, will certainly attain
Если на
unalloyed
свете
devotional
йог,
service
способный
at the
хотя бы
lotus feet of
мысленно
Vasudeva, the
последовать
Supreme
примеру Господа
Personality of
Ришабхадевы,
Godhead.
Господь Ришабхадева
Devotees
отрекся от
always
всех
bathe themselves
мистических
in devotional
способностей,
service in
которые
other
так
in
жаждут
order
обрести
to be
йоги.
relieved from the
Так
various
кто же из йогов
tribulations of
может
material
сравниться
existence.
с ним?
By doing this, the devotees enjoy
Шукадева
supreme
Госвами
bliss,
продолжал.
and liberation
Господь
personified comes to
Ришабхадева,
serve them.
высший духовный
Nonetheless, they
наставник,
do not accept
господин
that
и
service,
покровитель
even if
всего
it is
ведического знания,
offered
богов,
by the Supreme
коров,
Personality of
брахманов
Godhead
и обыкновенных людей. Я поведал о его
himself.
чистых,
For the devotees,
трансцендентных
liberation,
деяниях, которые положат конец грехам всех
mukti,
живых
is
существ.
very
Описание
unimportant
божественных
because,
игр
having
Господа
obtained the
Ришабхадева,
Lord's transcendental loving
неисчерпаемый
service,
источник
they have attained
благословения.
everything desirable
Каждый,
and have
кто, идя по стопам
transcended
ачарьев,
all material
внимательно
desires.
слушает или пересказывает
Shukadev
эти
Goswami
повествования,
continued,
непременно
My dear
возвысится
king,
до
the
чистого
Supreme
преданного
Person,
служения
Mukunda, is
лотосным
actually the
стопам
maintainer
Господа
of all the
Васудевы,
members of the
Верховной
Pandava and
Личности
Yadu
Бога.
dynasties.
Преданные
He is
постоянно
your
купаются
spiritual
в нектаре
master,
служения
worshipful
Господу
deity,
и
friend, and
благодаря
the director
этому
of your activities.
избавляются
To
от
say nothing of this,
всех
he
невзгод
sometimes serves your
материального
family
бытия.
as a messenger
Служа
or servant.
Господу, они
This means
испытывают
that
высочайшее блаженство
he worked
и
just
свободы,
as ordinary servants do.
освобождение.
Those
И
engaged
сами
in getting the Lord's
само
favor
приходит к
attain
ним,
liberation from
предлагая свои
the
услуги.
Lord very
Однако
easily.
преданные не
But he does
хотят
not very easily give the
освобождения, даже
opportunity
если
to
его
render
предлагает сам Бог,
direct
Верховная
service
Личность.
unto him.
Для преданных
The
освобождение
Supreme Personality
мукти
of Godhead,
не
Lord
представляет никакой
Rishabdev,
ценности,
was
ибо
fully
получив
aware of
возможность
his
заниматься
identity.
трансцендентным любовным
Therefore,
служением Господу,
he was
они уже
self-sufficient,
обрели все,
and
о
he
чем
did
только
not
можно
desire
мечтать, и
external
возвысились
gratification.
над любым материальными
There was
желаниями.
no need for him to
Шукадева
aspire
Госвами
for success,
продолжал.
since he was
Царь,
complete in
Верховный
himself.
Господь,
Those
Мукунда, сам заботится о членах семьи Яду,
who
и обо
unnecessarily
всех
engage in
потомках
bodily
Панды. Он
conceptions
для
and
вас
create
и
an
духовный
atmosphere of
наставник, и
materialism
божество,
are
которому вы
always
поклоняетесь,
ignorant of
и
their
Бог.
self-interest.
Именно Он
Out of his
направляет
causeless mercy,
все
Lord
ваши действия.
Rishabdev taught
Мало
the
того,
self's
иногда
real
Он
identity
становится
and the
вашим
goal of life.
посланником
We therefore
или
offer
слугой,
our
и
respectful
выполняет те
obeisances
же
unto the
обязанности, что
Lord,
и
who
простая
appeared
прислуга.
as Lord
Тем,
Rishabdev.
кто стремится
Thus
заслужить
end
Его
chapter 6
благосклонность,
of the 5th canto,
Господь
Activities
очень
of
скоро
Lord
дарует
Rishabdev.
освобождение, но мало кто получает от Господа
Chapter
возможность служить Ему
7.
с любовью.
The Activities of King Bharat. Shukadev Goswami continued, speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, my dear
Господь
king,
Ришабхадева прекрасно
Bharat
знал,
Maharaj
что он
was the
сам Бог,
topmost
верховная
devotee.
личность, и, будучи
Following the
полностью
orders of his father,
самодостаточным,
who had already
не
decided
стремился
to
к
install him on the
наслаждению,
throne,
которое
he
сулит
began to rule
внешняя
the earth
энергия. У него
accordingly.
не было никаких
When Bharat
желаний,
Maharaj
ибо
ruled the entire
он ни
globe,
в чем не
he
знал
followed the
недостатка.
orders of his
Люди,
father and married
зараженные ложными телесными представлениями,
Pancha,
все глубже погружаются в
Panchajani,
пучину
the
материализма
daughter of
и не ведают,
Vishvarupa.
где искать высшее благо.
Just as the false ego
Господь
creates the subtle
Ришабхадева
sense
по своей
objects, Maharaj
бесконечной
Bharat
милости объяснил им,
created
какова
5 sons in
истинная
the womb
природа души
of Panchajani,
и в
his
чем
wife.
смысл жизни. Я в глубоком
These sons were
почтении
named
склоняюсь перед
Sumati,
Верховным Господом и явившимся в образе
Rashtrabrita,
Ришабхадева. Конец 6 главы.
Sudarshana, Avarana, and
Глава 7.
Dhumraketu. Formerly, this planet was known as
Деяния Махараджи Бхарата.
Ajana Bhavarsha. But since Maharaj Bharat's reign, it has been known as Bharat Varsha.
Махараджа Бхарата был величайшим
Maharaj
преданным
Bharat was a
Господа,
very learned and experienced king on this
исполняя
earth.
волю Отца,
He perfectly
который решил
ruled the
возвести его на
citizens,
императорский
being
трон.
himself engaged
Махараджа
in his own
Бхарата стал
respective duties.
правителем земли и взял в жены
Maharaj Bharat was
Panchajani, дочь
as
Вишварупы.
affectionate to the citizens
Подобно тому,
as
как
his father
ложное
and
эго
grandfather had
порождает
been.
5
Keeping
тонких
them
объектов
engaged in the
чувств,
occupational
Махараджа
duties, he
Бхарата
ruled the
зачал в
earth.
лоне своей жены
With great
Panchajani
faith, Bharat performed
5
various
сыновей.
kinds of
Им дали
sacrifices.
имена
He performed the sacrifice known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Punamasa, Chaturmasya, Pashu Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely, and sometimes partially. In any case, all the sacrifices and regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. This is why in this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharat offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. In other words, he performed all the yagyas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Maharaj Bharat thought that since the demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking this in this way, Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharat expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eyes. Thus, Maharaj Bharat considered that the oblations offered to different demigods were actually offered unto the different limbs of Vasudeva. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharat was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day by day. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of Godhead, manifest as the Supersoul, Paramatma, as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth, and devotees worship Vasudeva, the supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Sri the Kastuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold the conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharat's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulashrama, which is situated in Hardwar. The Shalagram Shilas are obtained there. At Pulaha Ashram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, out of his transcendental affection for his devotee, becomes visible to his devotee, satisfying his devotee's desire. In Pula Ashram is the Gandaki River, which is the best of all rivers. The Shalagram Shila, the marble pebbles, purify all those places. On each and every marble petal, up and down circles like navels are visible. In the gardens of Pula Ashram, Maharaj Bharat lived alone and collected a variety of flowers, twigs, and tulsi leaves. He also collected the water of the Gandaki River, as well as various roots, fruits, and bulbs. With these, he offered food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and worshipped him. He remained satisfied. In this way, his heart was completely uncontaminated, and he did not have the least desire for material enjoyment. All material desires vanished. In his steady protection, he felt full satisfaction and was situated in devotional service.
Поклоняясь Господу, Махараджа Бхарата был доволен и счастлив. Сердце его было безупречно чистым.
That most exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharat, in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva Krishna increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus, he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he never forgot. He even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Maharaj Bharat appeared very beautiful. He had a wealth of curly hair on his head, which was wet for bathing 3 times daily. He dressed in a deerskin. He worshipped Lord Narayana, whose body was composed of golden effulgence, and whose resides in the sun. Maharaj Bharat worshipped Lord Narayana by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda, and he recited the following verses as the sun rose. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness. He illuminates the entire universe and bestows all benedictions upon his devotees. The Lord has created this universe from his own spiritual potency. Although he desires, according to his desire, the Lord entered this universe as the Supersoul, and by virtue of his different potencies and maintaining all the living entities desiring material enjoyment, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the giver of intelligence. Thus, in Chapter 7 of the 5th Canto, the activities of King Bharat, Chapter 8, the description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, one day after finishing his morning duties, evacuating, urinating, and bathing, Maharaj Bharat sat down on the bank of the river Gandaki for a few minutes and began chanting his mantra, beginning with Omkar. O king, while Bharat Maharaj was sitting on the bank of that river, a doe, being very thirsty, came there to drink. While the doe was drinking with great satisfaction, a lion, which was very close, roared very loudly. This was frightful to every living entity, and it was heard by the doe. By nature, the doe was always afraid of being killed by others, and it was always looking about suspiciously. When it heard the lion's tumultuous roar, it became very agitated. Looking here and there with disturbed eyes, the doe, although it had not fully satisfied itself by drinking water, suddenly leapt across the river. The doe was pregnant, and when it jumped out of fear, the baby deer fell from its womb into the flowing waters. Being separated from its flock and distressed by its miscarriage, the black doe, having crossed the river, was very much distressed indeed. It fell down in a cave and died immediately. The great King Bharat, while sitting on the bank of the river, saw the small deer, bereft of its mother, floating down the river. Seeing this, he felt great compassion. Like a sincere friend, he lifted the infant deer from the waves, and knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. Gradually, Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate toward the deer. He began to raise it and maintain it by giving it grass. He was always careful to protect it from the attacks of tigers and other animals. When it itched, he petted it, and in this way he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules of regulation for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, and he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. The great king Maharaj Bharat began to think, Alas, this helpless young deer! By force of time, an agent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has now lost its relatives and friends and has taken shelter of me. It does not know anyone but me, as I have become its father, mother, brother, and relatives. This deer is thinking in this way and has full faith in me. It does not know anyone but me. Therefore, I should not be envious and think that for the deer my own welfare will be destroyed. Should I certainly raise, protect, gratify, and fondle it? When it has taken shelter of me, how can I neglect it? Even though the deer is disturbing my spiritual life, I realize that a helpless person who has taken shelter cannot be neglected. That would be a great false. Even though one is in the renounced order, one who is advanced certainly feels compassion for suffering living entities. One should certainly neglect his own personal interests, although they may be very important, to protect one who has surrendered. Due to attachment for the deer, Maharaj Bharat laid down with it, walked about with it, bathed with it, and even ate with it. Thus his heart became bound to the deer in affection. When Maharaj Bharat wanted to enter the forest to collect kusha grass, flowers, wood, leaves, fruit, roots, and water, he would fear that dogs, jackals, tigers, and other ferocious animals might kill the deer. He would therefore always take the deer with him when entering the forest. When entering the forest, the animal would appear very attractive to Maharaj Bharat due to its childish behavior. Maharaj Bharat would even take the deer on his shoulders and carry it due to affection.
Так сердце его опутали узы любви к олененку. Когда Махараджа Бхарата отправлялся в лес,
his heart was so filled with great love for the deer that he would sometimes keep it on his lap, or when sleeping on his chest. In this way, he felt great pleasure in fondling the animal. When Maharaj Bharat was actually worshipping the Lord, or was engaged in some ritualistic ceremony, although his activities were unfinished, he would still, at intervals, get up and see where the deer was. In this way, he would look for it, and when he could see that the deer was comfortably situated, his mind and heart would be very satisfied, and he would bestow his blessings upon the deer, saying, "My dear calf, may you be happy in all respects." If Bharat Maharaj sometimes could not see the deer, his mind would be very agitated. He would become like a miser who, having obtained some riches, had lost them and then become very unhappy. When the deer was gone, he would be filled with anxiety and would lament due to separation. This would become illusioned and speak as follows. Thus he would become illusioned and speak as follows. Bharat Maharaj would think, "Alas, the deer is now helpless. I am now very unfortunate, and my mind is like a churning hunter, for it is always filled with cheating propensities, cruelty."
Однажды олененок куда-то исчез, и Махараджа Бхарата не находил себе места.
Cheating propensities and cruelty. The deer has put its faith in me, just as a good man who has a natural interest in good behavior forgets the misbehavior of a cunning friend and puts his faith in him. Although I have proved faithless, will this deer return and place its faith in me? Alas, is it possible that I shall again see the animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden eating soft grass? I do not know, but the deer might have been eaten by a wolf or a dog or by boars that flock together or the tiger who travels alone. Alas, when the sun rises, all auspicious things begin. Unfortunately, they have not begun for me. The sun god is the Vedas personified, and I am bereft of all Vedic principles. That sun god is now setting, and yet the poor animal, who trusted in me since its mother died, has not returned. That deer is exactly like a prince. When will it return? When will it again display its personal activities, which are so pleasing? When will it again pacify a wounded heart like mine? I certainly must have no pious asses. Otherwise, the deer would have returned by now. Alas, the small deer, while playing with me and seeing me feigning meditations with closed eyes, would circumambulate me with anger rising from love. And it would fearfully touch me with the points of its soft horns, which felt like drops of water. When I placed all the sacrificial ingredients in the kusha grass, the deer, when playing, would touch the grass with its teeth, and thus pollute it. I chastised the deer by pushing it away. It would immediately become fearful and sit down motionless, exactly like a son of a saintly person. Thus it would stop its play. After speaking like a madman in this way, Maharaj Bharat got up and went outside. Seeing the footprints of the deer on the ground, he praised the footprints out of love, saying, O unfortunate Bharata, your austere and penances are very insignificant compared to the penances and austerities undergone by this earth planet. Due to the earth's severe penances, the footprints of this deer, which are small, beautiful, most auspicious and soft, are imprinted on the surface of this fortunate planet. This series of footprints show a person like me, who am bereaved of due loss of the deer, how the animal has passed through the forest, and how I can regain my lost wealth. By these footprints, this land has become a proper place for Brahmanas who desire heavenly planets or liberation and execute sacrifice to the demigods. Maharaj Bharat continued to speak like a madman. Seeing above his head the dark moon on the rising moon, which resembled a deer, he said, Can it be the moon, who is so kind to an unhappy man, must also be kind upon my deer, knowing that I have strayed from home and has become motherless? This moon has given the deer shelter near itself, just to protect it from the fearful attacks of a lion. After perceiving the moon shine, Maharaj Bharat continued speaking like a crazy person. He said, The deer's son was so submissive, and the deer to me that due to its own separation, I am feeling separation from my own son. Due to the burning fever of this separation, I am now suffering as if inflamed in a forest fire. My heart, which is like a lily of the land, is now burning. See me so distressed. The moon is certainly splashing its shiny nectar upon me, just as a friend throws water on another friend who has a high fever. In this way, the moon is bringing me happiness. Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, in this way, Bharat Maharaj was very overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family? Considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life, how could he show such uncontrollable affection for the deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse situated itself before him. At the time of death, the king saw that the deer was sitting by his side, exactly like his own son was lamenting his death. Actually, the mind of the king was so absorbed in the body of the deer, and consequently, like those bereft of Krishna consciousness, he left the world, the deer, and his material body, and acquired the body of a deer. However, there was one advantage. Although he lost his human body and received the body of a deer, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. Although in the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj, due to his rigid devotional service in past life, could understand the cause of his birth in that body. Considering his past and present life, he constantly repented his activities, speaking in the following way. In the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj began to lament, "What misfortune! I have fallen from the path of self-realization. I gave up my real sons, wife, and home to advance in spiritual life, and I took shelter in the solitary holy place in the forest. I became self-controlled and self-realized, and I engaged constantly in devotional service, hearing, thinking, chanting, worshipping, and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. I was successful in my attempt, so much so that my mind was always absorbed in devotional service. However, due to my personal foolishness, my mind again became attracted, this time to a deer. Now I have obtained the body of a deer, and fallen far from my devotional practices. Although Bharat Maharaj received the body of a deer, by constant repentance he became completely detached from all material things. He did not disclose these things to anyone, but he left his mother deer in a place known as Kalanjara mountain, where he was born. He again went to the forest of Shalagram and to the ashram of Pulastya and Pulaha. Remembering the ashram, a great king Bharat Maharaj, now very carefully not to fall victim to bad association without disclosing his past to anyone, he remained in that ashram and ate dry leaves only. He was not exactly alone, for he had the association of the Supersoul. In this way, he waited for death in the body of the deer, bathing in that holy place. He finally gave up that body. Thus ends Chapter 8, Canto 5, a description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. Chapter 9, the supreme character of Jad Bharat. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, "My dear king, after giving up the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj took birth in a very pure Brahmana family. There was a Brahmana who belonged to the dynasty of Angira. He was fully qualified with Brahminical qualifications. He could control his mind and senses, and he had studied the Vedic literatures and other subsidiary literatures. He was not expert in giving charity, and he was always satisfied, tolerant, and very gentle, learned, and non-envious. He was self-realized and engaged in devotional service to the Lord. He remained always in trance. He had 9 equally qualified sons by his first wife, and his second wife begot twins, a brother and sister, of which the male child was said to be the topmost devotee and foremost of saintly kings, Bharat Maharaj. This, then, is the story of the birth he took after giving up the body of a deer. Due to his being especially gifted with the Lord's mercy, Bharat Maharaj could remember the incidents of his past life. Although he received the body of a Brahmana, he was still very much afraid of his relatives and friends who were not devotees. He was always very cautious of such association because he feared that he would again fall down. Consequently, he manifested himself before the public eye as a madman, dull, blind, and deaf. So that others would not try to talk to him. In this way, he saved himself from bad association. Within, he was always thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord and chanting the Lord's glories, which save one from the bondage of fruitive action. In this way, he saved himself from the onslaught of non-devotee associates. The Brahmana's father was always filled with affection for his son, Jad Bharat Maharaj. Therefore, he was always attracted to Jad Bharat. Because Jad Bharat was unfit to enter the ashram, he simply executed the purificatory processes up to the end of Brahmacharya ashram. Although Jadbharat was unwilling to accept his father's instructions, the Brahmana nonetheless instructed him in how to keep clean and how to wash, thinking that his son should be taught by the father. Jadbharat behaved before his father like a fool. Despite his father's adequately instructing him in Vedic knowledge, he behaved in that way so that his father would know that he was unfit for instruction and would abandon the attempt to instruct him further. He would behave in a completely opposite way. Although instructed to wash his hands after evacuating, he would wash them before. Nonetheless, his father wanted to give him Vedic instructions during the spring and summer. He tried to teach him the Gayatri mantra along with Omkar and Vyahriti. But after 4 months, his father, still not successful in instructing him. The Brahmana father of Jadbharat considered his son his heart and soul, and therefore he was very much attached to him. He thought it was wise to educate his son properly. And being absorbed in this unsuccessful endeavor, he tried to teach his son the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, including the execution of Vedic vows, cleanliness, study of the Vedas, the regulative methods, service to the spiritual master, and the method of offering a fire sacrifice. He tried his best to teach his son in this way, but all his endeavors failed. In his heart, he hoped that his son would be a learned scholar, but all his attempts were unsuccessful. Like everyone, this Brahmana was attached to his home, and he had forgotten that someday he would die. Death, however, was not forgettable. At the proper time, death appeared and took him away. Thereafter, the Brahmana's younger wife, after entrusting her twin children, the boy and girl, to the elder wife, departed for Patiloka, dying voluntarily with her husband. After the father died, the 9 stepbrothers of Jadbharat, who considered Jadbharat dull and brainless, abandoned their father's attempt to give Jadbharat a complete education. The stepbrothers of Jadbharat were learned in the 3 Vedas, the Rig Veda, Samveda, and Yajur Veda, which very much encouraged fruitive activity. The 9 brothers were not at all spiritually enlightened and in devotional service to the Lord. Consequently, they could not understand the highly exalted position of Jadbharat. Degraded men are actually no better than animals. The only difference is that animals have 4 legs, and such men have only 2. These 2-legged animalistic men used to call Jadbharat mad, dull, deaf, and dumb. They mistreated him, and Jadbharat behaved for them like a madman who was deaf, blind, or dull. He did not protest or try to convince them that he was not so. If others wanted him to do something, he acted according to their desires. Whatever food he could acquire by begging or by wages, whatever came of its own accord, be it a small quantity, palatable, stale, or tasteless, he would accept and eat. He never ate anything for sense gratification because he was already liberated from the bodily conception, which induces one to accept palatable or unpalatable food. He was full in transcendental consciousness of devotional service, and therefore he was unaffected by the dualities arising from the bodily conception. Actually, his body was as strong as a bull's, and his limbs were very muscular. He didn't care for winter or summer, wind or rain, and he never covered his body at any time. He lay down on the ground and never smeared oil on his body, or never took a bath. Because his body was dirty, his spiritual effulgence and knowledge were covered, just as the splendor of a valuable gem is covered by dirt. He only wore a dirty loincloth and his sacred thread, which was blackish. Understanding that he was born in a Brahmana family, people would call him a Brahma Bandhu and other names. Being thus insulted and neglected by materialistic people,
иногда пища доставалась ему безо всяких усилий. Иногда его кормили за какую-нибудь работу, а иногда ему приходилось просить подаяние. Джадабхарата довольствовался любой, даже самой скудной пищей, и его не беспокоило, вкусная она или нет, свежая или испорченная. Он иногда не ел лишь ради наслаждения, ибо уже избавился от телесных представлений, заставляющих человека различать вкусную и невкусную пищу.
Understanding is born of blind, people call him Brahma Bandhu and other names. Being thus insulted and neglected by materialistic people, he wandered here and there. Judd Bharat used to work only for food. His stepbrothers took advantage of this and engaged him in agricultural fieldwork in exchange for some food. But actually, he did not know how to work very well in the field. He did not know where to spread dirt or where to make the ground level or uneven. His brothers used to give him broken rice, oil cakes, the chaff of rice, worm-eaten grains, and burned grains that had stuck to the pot. But he gladly accepted all this as if it were nectar. He did not hold any grudges and ate all this very gladly. At this time, being desirous of obtaining a son, a leader of dacoits who came from a Sudra family wanted to worship the goddess Bhadra Kali by offering her in sacrifice a dull man who is considered no better than an animal. The leader of the dacoits captured a man animal for sacrifice, but he escaped, and the leader ordered his followers to find him. They ran in different directions but could not find him, wandering here and there in the middle of the night. Covered by dense darkness, they came to a paddy field where they saw the exalted son of the Angira family, Judd Bharat, who was sitting in an elevated place guarding the field against attacks from deer and wild pigs. The followers and servants of the dacoit chief considered Judd Bharat to possess qualities quite suitable for a man-animal, and they decided that he was a perfect choice for sacrifice. Their faces bright with happiness, they bound him with ropes and brought him to the temple of the goddess Kali. After this, all the thieves, according to their imaginative ritual for killing animalistic men, bathed Judd Bharat, dressed him in new clothes, decorated him with ornaments befitting an animal, speared his body with scented oils, and decorated him with tilak, sandalwood pulp, and garlands. They fed him sumptuously and then brought him before the goddess Kali, offering her incense, lamps, garlands, parched grains, newly grown twigs, sprouts, fruits, and flowers. In this way they worshipped the deity before killing the man-animal, and they vibrated songs and prayers and played drums and bugles. Judd Bharat was then made to sit down before the deity. At this time, one of the thieves, acting as the chief priest, was ready to offer the blood of Judd Bharat, whom they imagined to be an animal man, to the goddess Kali to drink as liquor. He therefore took up a very fearsome sword, which was very sharp, and concentrating it by the mantra of Bhadra Kali, raised it to kill Judd Bharat. All the rogues and thieves who had made arrangements for the worship of goddess Kali were low-minded and bound to the modes of passion and ignorance. They were overpowered by the desire to become very rich. Therefore, they had the audacity to disobey the injunctions of the Vedas, so much so that they were prepared to kill Judd Bharat, a self-realized soul born in a Brahmana family. Due to their envy, these dacoits brought him before the goddess Kali for sacrifice. Such people are always addicted to envious activities, and therefore they dared to try to kill Judd Bharat. Judd Bharat was the best friend of all living entities. He was no one's enemy, and he was always absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was born of a good Brahmana father, and killing him was forbidden. Even though he might have been an enemy or aggressive person. In any case, there was no reason to kill Judd Bharat, and the goddess Kali could not bear this. She could immediately understand that these sinful dacoits were about to kill a great devotee of the Lord. Suddenly, the deity's body burst asunder, and the goddess Kali personally emerged from it in a body burning with intense and intolerable effulgence. Intolerant of the offenses committed, the infuriated goddess Kali flashed her eyes and displayed her fierce, curved teeth. Her reddish eyes glowed, and she displayed her fearsome features. She assumed a frightening body, as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately decapitated all the rogues and thieves with the very sword with which they had intended to kill Judge Bharat. She then began to drink the hot blood that flowed from the necks of beheaded rogues and thieves, as if this blood were liquor. Indeed, she drank this intoxicated with her associates, who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with his blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance as though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At the same time, they began to play with the heads of the rogues and thieves, tossing them about as if they were balls. When an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he is always punished, and this in a way mentioned above. Shukadev Goswami then said to Maharaj Parikshit, O Vishnudatta, those who already know that the soul is separate from the body, who are liberated from the invincible knot in the heart, who are always engaged in the welfare activities for the living entities, and who never contemplate harming anyone, are always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who carries his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, and acts as the supreme time to all the demons and protect his devotees. The devotee always takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, at all times, even if threatened by decapitation, they remain unagitated. For them, this is not at all wonderful. Thus ends chapter 9 of the 5th canto, the supreme character of Judge Bharat. Chapter 10, the discussions between Bharat Maharaj and Maharaj Yudhishthira.
Как вино, горячую кровь, льющуюся у них из шеи. Вместе с ней это вино пили ее спутницы, ведьмы и демоницы.
Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after this, King Rahugana, ruler of the state known as Sindhu and Sauvira, was going to Kapilashram when the king's chief palanquin carrier reached the banks of the river Ikshumati. They needed another carrier. Therefore, they began searching for someone, and by chance they came upon Judge Bharat. They considered the fact that Judge Bharat was very young and strong and had firm limbs, like cows and asses. He was quite fit to carry loads. Thinking, in this way, although the great soul Judge Bharat was unfit for such work, they nonetheless unhesitatingly forced him to carry the palanquin. However, it was very erratically carried by Judge Bharat due to his sense of non-violence. As he stepped forward, he checked before him every 3 feet to see whether there was about to step on ants. Consequently, he could not keep pace with the other carriers. Due to this, the palanquin was shaking, and King Rahugana immediately asked the carriers, Why are you carrying this palanquin unevenly? Better carry it properly. When the palanquin carriers heard the threatening words of Maharaj Rahugana, they became very afraid of his punishment and began to speak to him as follows. O Lord, please note that we are not at all negligent of discharging our duties. We have been faithfully carrying this palanquin according to your desire. But this man, who has been recently engaged to work with us, cannot walk very swiftly. Therefore, we are not able to carry the palanquin with him. King Rahugana could understand the speeches given by the carriers, who were afraid of being punished. He could understand that simply due to the fault of one person, the palanquin was not being carried properly. Knowing this perfectly well, and hearing their appeal, he became a little angry, although he was very advanced in political science and was very experienced. His anger arose due to his inborn nature as a king. Actually, King Rahugana's mind was covered by the mode of passion, and he therefore spoke as follows to Judge Bharat, whose Brahmana effulgence was not very clearly visible, being covered like a fire, covered by ashes. King Rahugana told Judge Bharat, How troublesome this is, my dear brother. You certainly... You certainly appear very fatigued because you have carried this palanquin alone without assistance for a long time and for a long distance. Besides that, due to your old age, you have become greatly troubled. My dear friend, I see that you are not very firm nor very strong and stout. Aren't your fellow carriers cooperating with you? In this way, the king criticized Judge Bharat with sarcastic words. Yet despite his being criticized in this way, Judge Bharat had no bodily conception of the situation. He knew that he was not the body, for he had attained his spiritual identity. He was neither fat, lean, nor thin, nor had he anything to do with a lump of matter, a combination of the 5 gross and 3 subtle elements. He had nothing to do with the material body, and its 2 hands and legs. In other words, he had completely realized his spiritual identity, Aham Brahmasmi. He was therefore unaffected by this sarcastic criticism from the king. Without saying anything, he continued carrying the palanquin as before. Thereafter, when the king saw that his palanquin was still being shaken by the carriers, he became very angry and said, "You rascal, what are you doing? Are you dead despite the life within your body? Do you not know that I am your master? You are disregarding me and are not carrying me out of my orders. For this disobedience, I shall now punish you, just as Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, punishes sinful people. I shall give you proper treatment so that you will come to your senses and do the correct thing." Thinking himself as a king, King Rahugna was in the bodily conception and was influenced by material nature's modes of passion and ignorance. Due to madness, he chastised Judge Bharat with uncalled for and contradictory words. Judge Bharat was a topmost devotee and the dear abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although considering himself very learned, the king did not know about the position of an advanced devotee situated in devotional service, nor did he know about his characteristics. Judge Bharat was the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He always carried the form of the Lord within his heart. He was the dear friend of all living beings, and he did not entertain any bodily conception. Therefore he smiled and spoke the following words. The great Brahmana Judge Bharat said, "My dear king and hero, whatever you have spoken sarcastically is certainly true. Actually, these are not simply words of chastisement, for the body is the carrier. The Lord carried by the body does not belong to me. The load carried by the body does not belong to me, for I am the spirit soul. There is no contradiction in your statements, because I am different from the body. I am not the carrier of the palanquin. The body is the carrier. Certainly, as you have hinted, I am not labored carrying the palanquin, for I am detached from this body. You have said that I am not stout and strong. These words are befitting a person who does not know the distinction between the body and the soul. The body may appear fat or thin, but no learned man would say such things as the spirit soul. As far as the spirit soul is concerned, I am neither fat nor skinny. Therefore you are correct when you say that I am not very stout. Also, if the object of this journey and the path leading there were mine, there would be many troubles for me, because they relate not to me but my body. Therefore, there is no trouble at all. Fatness, thinness, bodily and mental distress, thirst, hunger, fear, disagreement, desire for material happiness, old age, sleep, attachment for material possessions, anger, limitation, illusion, and identification of the body with the self are all transformations of the material covering of the spirit soul. A person absorbed in the material bodily conception is affected by these things. But I am free from all bodily conceptions. Consequently, I am neither fat nor skinny, nor anything else you have mentioned.
Но с другой
My
стороны,
dear
ты
king,
прав.
you have
Я, душа, не
unnecessarily
тучный
accused me
и
of
не
being
худой,
dead, though
поэтому
alive.
вполне можно
In this
сказать,
regard,
что
I
я
can
не
only
слишком
say
упитан.
that this is the
Кроме
case
того,
everywhere, because
если
everything
бы
material has
весь
its
этот
beginning
путь
and
с
end.
паланкином должен
As
был
far as you're
проделать
thinking
я, мне пришлось
that
бы
you are the
немало
king and the
потрудиться.
master
Однако
and are
этот
thus
путь прошел
trying
не
to
я,
order me,
а мое
this is
тело.
also incorrect,
От меня же
because
вообще
these
не
positions
потребовалось
are
никаких
temporary.
усилий.
Today
Полнота,
you are the
худоба,
king and I am your servant,
телесные
but
и
tomorrow the
психические
position may
страдания,
be changed,
жажда,
and you
голод,
may
страх,
be my servant,
разногласия,
and I your
стремление к
master.
мирскому счастью,
These are temporary circumstances created by
старость, сон,
providence.
привязанность к материальной
My dear
собственности,
king,
гнев, скорбь, иллюзия
if you still
и
think that you are the
отождествление
king
себя с
and that
телом,
I am your
все это
servant,
различные
you should not
порождения
order me,
материальной оболочки
and
души.
should follow
Они
your
служат
order.
источником
I can then
беспокойства
say
для
that
тех,
this
кто находится во
differentiation
власти
is
материальных
temporary,
телесных
and
представлений.
even it
Что для
expands
меня,
only from
то я
usage
полностью
or
свободен от таких
convention.
представлений,
I do
и
not
потому
see any
не
other
считаю
cause,
себя ни тучным,
and that
ни
cause
худым.
who is the master and who is
То
the
же самое
servant.
касается и всех
Everyone
остальных
is being
качеств, которые
forced by
ты
the
назвал.
laws of material
О
nature before
досточтимый царь,
before
ты упрекнул меня, назвав живым
therefore
мертвецом. На
no
это
one is
могу
master
лишь
and
заметить,
no one is
что
servant.
то же самое
Nonetheless,
можно
if
сказать
you
о
think
каждом.
that you are the
Все
master and
материальные,
that I am the
все
servant,
материальное
I
имеет
shall
начало
accept this.
и конец.
Please order me.
Кроме того,
What can
ты
I do
считаешь
for
себя
you?
господином, царем и пытаешься приказывать мне.
My dear
Однако это
king,
тоже
you
заблуждение,
have said,
ибо
you
наши
rascal,
земные
you
отношения
dull, crazy fellow,
приходящие.
I am
Сегодня
going
ты
to
царь,
chastise
а
you,
я твой
and then
слуга.
you will come to
Но
your
завтра
senses.
все может измениться,
In this
и ты
regard,
станешь моим
let me
слугой,
say
а я
that
твоим
although I
господином.
live like a dull,
Все эти
deaf,
временные
and dumb
обстоятельства
man,
возникают по воле
I am
провидения.
actually a
Но, царь,
self-realized
если ты
person.
все еще считаешь
What will you
себя
gain by punishing
повелителем,
me?
а меня слугой,
If your
тогда
calculation is
приказывай
true
мне,
and I am
и
a
я буду
madman,
повиноваться.
then your
На
punishment will
самом
be
деле
like beating a
различие
dead
между
horse.
господином и
There will
слугой
be no
временно,
effect.
условно,
When a
и
madman
мы
is punished, he is not
признаем его
cured
только
of his
потому,
madness.
что так принято.
Shukadeva
Другой
Goswami
причины
said,
я не вижу.
O Maharaj
Разве
Parikshit,
можно
when King
кого-то в этом
Rahugana
мире
chastised the
назвать
exalted
господином
devotee
или слугой?
Jadbharat with harsh
Каждый
words,
находится во
that
власти
peaceful,
законов материальной
saintly
природы,
person
поэтому
tolerated
нет
it all
здесь
and
ни слуг,
replied
ни господ. Но
properly.
если ты все-таки
Nescience
считаешь
is due
себя
to bodily
господином, а
conception,
меня
and
слугой,
Jadbharat was
повелевай
not
мне.
affected by the
Чем я
this
могу
false
служить тебе?
conception.
Ты
Out of
назвал
his
меня
natural humility, he
негодяем,
never considered himself a great
полоумным,
devotee,
тупицей и
and he agreed
пообещал
to suffer the
наказать,
results of
чтобы
his past
привести в
karma.
чувство. Да
Like
будет
an
тебе
ordinary
известно,
man,
о
he
царь,
thought
что
that by carrying the
хоть я и
palanquin,
веду
he was
себя
destroying the
как
reactions of
глухонемой
past
и
misdeeds.
слабоумный, на
Thinking in
самом
this
деле
way, he
я
began to carry the
осознавшая себя
palanquin as
душа.
before.
Чего ты добьешься, наказывай меня. Даже если, как ты
Shukadeva
говоришь,
Goswami
я
continued,
сумасшедший, то наказывать
O
меня
bastard of the
все
Pandu
равно, что
dynasty, Maharaj
стегать
Parikshit,
дохлую
the
лошадь.
king of the Sindhu
Никакого
and
толку от этого
Sauvira
не будет,
states,
ибо
Maharaj
наказанием
Raghunatha had great
сумасшедшего
faith
не
in
вылечишь.
discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jadbharat that philosophical presentation, which is approved by
Шукадева
all
Госвами
scriptures
сказал:
on the mystic yoga
Святой,
processes,
безгрешный
which slacken the
Джадабхарата,
knot in the heart. His
возвышенный
material
преданный
conception of
Господа,
himself as a king
невозмутимо
was
выслушал
thus
все
destroyed.
грубые
He
упреки,
immediately
которые
descended from
бросал
his
ему царь
palanquin
Рахугана,
and
а
fell
затем
flat on
дал
the
царю
ground, with his head
логичный
at the
и
lotus feet
последовательный
of
ответ.
Jadbharat,
Люди,
in such a
находящиеся в
way that he
невежестве,
might be
отождествляют
excused for
себя
his
с телом.
insulting
Но
words against the
Джадабхарата
great
был свободен
Brahmana.
от этого
He
заблуждения.
then prayed as
Скромный и
follows.
кроткий
King
от природы,
Rahugana
он
said,
никогда не считал себя великим преданным и безропотно переносил страдания,
O Brahmana,
порожденные его прошлой
you
кармой.
appear to be moving
Джадабхарата
in this
думал,
world, very
что,
much
неся
covered and
паланкин,
unknowing
он,
to
как
others.
и любой другой
Who
человек,
are
тем
you?
самым
Are
уничтожает
you a learned
последствия
Brahmana
своих
and a
прошлых
saintly
грехов.
person?
С этими
I see that you
мыслями
are
он
wearing a
продолжил
sacred
свой
thread.
путь,
Are
неся
you one of those
паланкин,
exalted, liberated saints
точно
as
так же,
Dattatreya?
как и прежде.
And other highly advanced learned
Шукадева Госвами
scholars?
продолжал:
May I ask
что
who your
лучший из
disciples,
потомков родом
whose
Панду,
disciple you
Махараджа
are?
Парикшит,
Where do you live?
правитель
Why
государства
have you come to this
Синху
place?
и
Is your
Саувира,
mission in coming here
Махараджа
to do
Рахугана,
good for us?
свято
Please
верил
let
в
me know
метод
who you
философского
are.
поиска абсолютной истины.
My dear
Поэтому,
sir,
услышав от
I am
Джадабхарата
not at
философские
all afraid of
объяснения,
the thunderbolt of King
которое
Indra,
соответствует всем
nor am
трактатам
I afraid of
мистической йоги и помогает человеку развязать тугой узел в своем сердце,
My dear sir, I am not at all afraid of the thunderbolt of King Indra, nor am I afraid of the serpentine piercing trident of Lord Shiva. I do not care about the punishment of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, nor am I afraid of fire, scorching sun, moon, wind, and the weapons of Kuvera. Yet I am afraid of offending Brahmana. I am very much afraid of this. My dear sir, it appears that the influence of your great spiritual knowledge is the hidden. Factually, you are bereft of all material association and fully absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme. Consequently, you are ultimately advanced in spiritual knowledge. Please tell me why you are wandering about like a dullard. O great saintly person, you have spoken words approved by the yogik persons, but it is not possible for us to understand what you have said. Therefore, kindly explain it. I consider your court self the most exalted master of mystic power. You know the spiritual science perfectly well. You are the most exalted of all learned sages, and you have descended for the benefit of all human society. You have come to give spiritual knowledge, and you are a direct representative of Kapila Dev, the incarnation of God, in the plenary portion of knowledge. I am therefore asking you, O spiritual master, what is the most secure shelter in this world? Is it not a fact that your good self is the direct representative of Kapila Dev, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? To examine people and see this, to examine people and see who is actually a human being and who is not, you have presented yourself to be deaf and dumb, to be a deaf and dumb person. You are not moving in this way upon the surface of the world. I am very attached to family life and worldly activities, and I am blind to spiritual knowledge. Nonetheless, I am now present before you and am seeking enlightenment from you. How can I advance in spiritual life? You have said, I am not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor, and it appears to be fatigued of the soul. When you are carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited by the master and the servant is not factual. But although the phenomenal world is not factual, the products of phenomenal world can actually affect things that is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. King Rahugana continued, my dear sir, you have said that the designation like bodily fatness and thinness are not characteristics of the soul. That is incorrect, because designations like pain and pleasure are certainly felt by the soul. You may put a pot of milk and rice within the fire, and the milk and rice are automatically heated one after the other. Similarly, due to bodily pains and pleasure, the senses and mind and soul are affected. The soul cannot be completely detached from this conditioning. My dear sir, you have said that the relationship between the king and the subject, or between the master and the servant, are not eternal. But although such realizations are temporary, when a person takes the position of a king, his duty is to rule the citizens and punish those who are disobedient to the laws. By punishing them, he teaches the citizens to obey the laws of the state. Again, you have said that punishing a person who is deaf and dumb is like chewing the chewed or grinding the pulp. That is to say, there is no benefit in it. However, if one is engaged in his own occupational duty as ordered by the Supreme Lord, his sinful activities are certainly diminished. Therefore, if one is engaged in his occupational duty by force, he benefits because he can vanquish all his sinful activities in that way. Whatever you have spoken to me appears to be contradictory, O best friend of the distressed. I have committed a great offense by insulting you. I was puffed up and with fair prestige, duty, and processing. The body of a king.
обязан править
For
своими
this I have
подданными
certainly
и карать
become an
нарушителей
offender.
закона.
Therefore I
Наказывая
pray
преступников, он учит подданных читать
that you
законы
kindly glance
государства,
at me,
чтить законы государства.
that you kindly glance at me with your causeless mercy. If you do so, I can be better.
Конечно,
I can
как
be
ты говорил,
relieved from sinful activities
наказывать
brought about by
невменяемого
insulting you.
бесполезно. Это все равно, что
Oh, my dear
седлать
Lord,
глупую лошадь
you are a
или
friend
толочь
of the
воду
Supreme
в ступе.
Personality of Godhead, who is the
Однако
friend
те,
of all living
кто,
entities.
повинуясь воле
You are
Верховного
therefore equal to
Господа,
everyone,
добросовестно
and you are free
выполняет
from
свои
the bodily
обязанности,
conception.
постепенно
Although I have
перестают
committed
грешить.
an offense
Стало быть,
by insulting
заставляя
you,
подданных
I know
выполнять
that there is no
предписанные
loss or gain.
обязанности,
For you,
царь
due to
приносит
my
им
insult,
благо, ибо побуждает
you are
умысел
fixed in your
отречься от греха.
determination, but I
Поэтому,
have
о
committed an
почтенный,
offense
твои слова
because of
кажутся
this,
мне
even though I
противоречивыми.
may
О,
be,
лучший друг
be as
страждущих,
strong as
оскорбив
Lord
тебя,
Shiva,
я совершил тяжкий грех.
I shall
И
be
отпичился
vanquished
своим
without
царским
delay due to
происхождением,
my offense at
и,
the lotus feet
ослепленный
of
гордыней,
Vaishnav.
стал величайшим грешником.
Thus, in
И
chapter
сейчас я
10,
молю
the
тебя,
discussion
обрати
between
на
Jad
меня
Bharat and
свой
Maharaj
благосклонный
Rahugana.
взор и одари беспричинной милостью. Тогда я освобожусь от греха,
Chapter
который
11,
навлек на себя,
Jad Bharat
нанеся тебе
instructs
обиду.
King
О мой
Rahugana.
господин, ты близкий друг Верховного Господа, благожелателя всех живых существ. Поэтому мы ко всем относимся одинаково и полностью поэтому ты ко
Chapter
всем
12,
относишься
conversations
одинаково
between
и полностью осознаешь
Bharat Maharaj and Maharaj Rahugana.
различия между телом и духом. Я возвел на тебя хулу,
King Rahugana said,
но
O
ты
most
не
exalted
принял обиду
personality,
близко к
you are
сердцу,
not
ибо
different from the
ничто
Supreme
и
Personality
никто
of
не может
Godhead.
смутить твоего
By my
спокойствия.
influence of your true
Однако
self,
меня это
all
вовсе
kinds
не
of contradiction in the
даже
Shastras have
если
been
человек
removed.
обладает
In the
могуществом
distress of your
силы,
friend, a
нанеся
friend, a
оскорбление
Brahmana,
лотосным
you are
стопам
hiding your
Вайшнава,
transcendental blissful
он обрекает
position.
себя на
I
скорую
offer my
гибель.
respectful obeisances unto you.
Конец 10
O
главы.
best of the Brahmanas, my body is filled with dirty things, and my vision has been bitten by the serpent of pride. Due to my material conceptions, I am diseased. Your nectarian instructions are the proper medicine for one suffering from such a fever, and they are cooling waters
Глава
for one
11,
scorched by the
пятая
heat.
песня.
Whatever doubts
Джадабхата
I have
дает
about a
наставление
particular subject
Махараджи
matter, I
Рахугане.
ask about.
Браман
I
Джадабхата
shall ask
сказал:
you about
«О царь,
later.
ты вовсе
For
не
the time
обладаешь
being,
глубокими
these
познаниями,
mysterious yoga instructions you
хотя
have
и
given me
пытаешься
for
говорить языком
self-realization
мудрецов.
appeared very difficult
Истинный
to
мудрец никогда
understand.
не
Please repeat
никогда бы
them
не
in a
стал
simple way
придавать
so that I
отношение
can
господину
understand
и
them.
слуги
My mind is
между
very
материальным
inquisitive,
страданием
and
и
I want to
удовлетворением
understand this clearly.
и удовольствием
O Master
такого
of yogic
значения,
power,
какое
you
придаешь
said that
ты.
fatigue resulting from
Все
moving
это
the
лишь
body here
различные
and there is
проявления
appreciated
внешней
by
энергии,
direct
и те,
perception.
кто следует
But
духовной
actually, there
науке,
is no
кто
fatigue.
познал
It
абсолютную
simply exists
истину,
as a matter of
объясняет
formality.
их
By such
совсем другой
inquiries,
точки
you
зрения.
in answers,
Объясняя отношение
no one
господина
can
слуги
come to
или
the
царя и
conclusion of the
подданного.
absolute
Ты
truth.
попросту говоришь о материальной
Because of your
деятельности.
presentation
Эта
of this
деятельность
statement,
подробно
my
описана
mind
в
is a
Ведах.
little
И те,
disturbed.
кого она
The
привлекает,
self-realized
склонны
Brahmana
совершать
Jad Bharat
жертвоприношения
said,
ради мирских целей.
among the various
Такие люди
material
уповают лишь на
combinations and
свои материальные
permutations,
действия.
there are various
Поэтому
forms and
жизнь
earthly
не озарена
transformations.
светом духовного
For some
знания.
reason, these move on the
Проснувшись,
surface of
мы не
the earth and
придаем
are
своим
called palanquin
снам
carriers.
большого значения,
Those
ибо
material
понимаем, что
transformations,
сон
which
–
do
это
not
призрак,
move and
иллюзия. И
move
точно
are
так
gross
же рано или
material
поздно
objects like
душа
stones.
осознает
In any
призрачность
case, the material
материального
body is
счастья,
made of earth
будь
and
оно в этой
stone, and
жизни
it's
или
weak,
следующей,
and its
на этой
form of
планете
feet,
или на высших.
ankles, calves,
Такая
knees,
душа стремится
thighs,
постичь
torsos,
саму
throat,
суть
and
истины,
head.
и для этого
Upon the shoulders
ей
is a
уже
wooden palanquin,
недостаточно вет, хотя они и
and
содержат
within the
очень много
palanquin is the
важных
so-called
наставлений.
king of
До тех пор, пока ум
Saurvira.
живого
The
существа
body of a
осквернен
king is
тремя
simply
гунами
another
материальной природы,
transformation of earth.
благостью, страстью и
But within the
невежеством,
body of your
он
lordship
подобен
is
дикому,
situated and falsely
непокорному
thinking
слону.
that you are the king of
Такой
the
ум
state of
постоянно расширяет
Saurvira.
сферу своего влияния, побуждая органы тела совершать
In
различные
effect,
благочестивые
however,
и греховные
that these
действия.
innocent people carrying your palanquin without payment
Из-за
are
этого
certainly
живое
suffering
существо
due to this
вынуждено
injustice.
оставаться в
Their
материальном
condition
мире
is very
и пожинать
lamentable
плоды своей
because you have
материальной
forcibly
деятельности в
engaged
виде
them in carrying
разнообразных
your
удовольствий и
palanquin.
страданий.
This
Ум
proves that you
полон желаний,
are
связанных с праведными и неправедными делами, поэтому им легко овладевает вожделение и гнев.
This proves that you are
Так
cruel
в
and
уме
unkind,
рождается
yet due
привязанность
to
к
false
материальным
prestige,
чувственным
you were
удовольствиям.
thinking that you were
Иначе говоря,
protecting the
он
citizens.
попадает под
This
влияние, под
is
власть
ludicrous.
благости,
You were
страсти
such a
и
fool that you
невежества.
could not
Из
have been
16
adored
материальных
as a
элементов
great man. in the assembly of persons
к которым
advancing in
относится
spiritual knowledge.
11 органов тела и 5
All of
стихий,
us on the surface of the globe are living entities in different forms. Some of us are moving, and some are not
рождаться в
moving.
разных телах.
All of us come into existence, remain for some time, and are annihilated when the body is again mingled with the earth. We are all simply different transformations of the earth. Different bodies and capacities are simply transformations of the earth that exist in name only. For everything grows out of the earth, and when everything is annihilated, it again mingles with the earth. In other words, we are but dust, and we shall but be dust. Everyone can consider this point. One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in the material world simply result from the atomic juxtaposition of combination. Since this universe has no real ultimate existence, things within it, shortness, difference, grossness, skinniness, smallness, bigness, result, cause, living symptoms, and materials are all imagined. They are all pots made of the same substance, earth, but they are named differently. The differences are characterized by the substance, nature, predisposition, time, and activity. You should know that all of these are simply mechanical manifestations created by material nature. What then is the ultimate truth? The answer is that non-dual knowledge is the ultimate truth. It is devoid of contamination of material qualities. It gives us liberation. It is the one without a second. All-pervading and beyond imagination, the first realization of that knowledge is Brahman, then Paramatma, then Supersoul. That is realized by the yogis who try to see him without grievance. This is the second stage of realization. Finally, full realization of the same is realized in the Supreme Person. All learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as Vasudeva, the cause of Brahman, Paramatma, and others. My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of household life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter, or keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in the summer by fire in the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee.
Под их влиянием 11 видов деятельности ума принимают сотни тысяч.
Who are the pure devotees mentioned here? In an assembly of pure devotees, there is no question of discussing material subjects like politics or sociology. In an assembly of pure devotees, there is discussion only of the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is praised and worshipped with full attention. The association of pure devotees, by constantly hearing such topics, respectfully, even a person who wants to merge into the existence of the Absolute Truth, abandons this idea and gradually becomes attached to the service of Vasudeva. In the previous birth, I was known as Maharaj Bharat. I attained perfection by becoming completely detached from material activities, though through direct experience, and through indirect experience I received understanding from the Vedas. I was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, but due to my
Его можно
misfortune,
постичь, как
I
слушая о
became
нем,
very
так
affectionate to a
увидев
small
его
deer,
воочию. Он
so much so that I
изучает
neglected my
духовное
spiritual
сияние и не
duties.
подвержен рождению, смерти,
Due to my
старости
deep
и
affection
болезни.
for the deer,
Он
in my
повелитель
next
всех
life I had
полубогов,
to accept the
в том
body
числе
of a deer,
Господа Брамы. Его
my
именуют
dear
Нараяной,
heroic king.
ибо он,
Due to my past
убежище, в
sincere
котором
service
после
to the
разрушения
Lord,
материального
I could
мира
remember everything
укрываются все
of my
живые
past
существа.
life,
Господь
even
в
while
полной
in the
мере
body of a
обладает
deer,
всеми богатствами
even
и
while in the body
совершенствами.
of a deer.
В нем покоится
Because I am aware
вся
of the fall
материальная
down of my
энергия.
past life,
Поэтому
I
одно
always
из
keep
имен
myself
Верховной
separate
Личности
from the
Бога,
association of
Васудева,
ordinary men,
проявляя свое
being
могущество,
afraid of their
и он
bad,
присутствует в
materialistic
сердце каждого,
association.
подобно
I
тому,
wander
как в
alone,
телах всех движущих
unnoticed
и
by
неподвижных
others.
существ присутствует воздух и
Simply by
жизненная сила.
associating with exalted
Так
devotees,
Господь
anyone can
повелевает всеми
attain
телами,
perfection of knowledge,
входит в каждое
and with a
из
sword of
них в
knowledge
образе своего
can
частичного
cut to
проявления
pieces the
и
illusory
направляет их
association
деятельность.
within this
Царь
material
Рахугана
world.
до тех пор,
Through the
пока
association
обусловленная
of
душа
devotees,
не
one can
прекратит
engage in the
переселяться из
service of the
одного
Lord
материального
by
тела в
hearing
другое,
and chanting
пока она не
Shravanam
стряхнет
Kirtanam.
себя скверну
This
материальных
one can
наслаждений,
revive his
не
dormant
одолеет
Kish
своих
Krishna
шестерых врагов
consciousness,
и
and
не
sticking to
пробудит
the
в себе
cultivation
знание
of
своей
Krishna
истинной
consciousness,
духовной
return
природы,
home
до тех
back to
пор она
Godhead,
будет
even
скитаться по
in this
материальному миру,
life.
рождаться в самых
Haribol!
разных формах жизни. Итак, ложное «я»,
Thus ends
обусловленное
chapter
душой,
12
ее
of the
ум,
5th canto,
является
conversation
причиной всех
between
ее
Maharaj
несчастий
Rahugana
в
and
материальном
Jud
мире.
Bharat.
Пока душа не поймет
Chapter
этого,
13.
ей придется
Further
дальше
talks
бродить по
between King
вселенной и
Rahugana and
страдать,
Jud
получая
Bharat.
новые и новые материальные тела.
Jud Bharat,
В
who
уме
had fully
коренятся
realized
болезни,
Brahman,
коренятся
continued,
болезни,
My dear
скорбь,
King
иллюзия,
Rahugana,
привязанность,
the living
жадность,
entity
вражда.
wanders
Из-за
on the
этого
path of the
душа
material
томится в
world,
плену
which is very difficult
материи.
for him to traverse,
Ошибочно считает себя
and he accepts
частью этого
repeated
мира.
birth and death,
Необузданный ум,
being captivated
злейший
by
враг
the
живого
material world
существа.
under the
Если
influence
дать
of the
ему
three
волю,
modes of
если
material
не следить
nature,
за ним, он
Sattva
будет
Gun,
становиться все более могущественным и в конце
Raja Gun,
концов
and Tama
полностью
Gun.
подчинить себе
The living
живое
entity
существо.
can see
При всей
only
своей
the three
эфемерности
fruits
он
of
обладает
activities
огромной
under the
силой
spell
и
of
способен
material nature.
полностью скрыть истинную природу души.
These
О,
fruits are
царь,
auspicious,
срази же этого
inauspicious,
врага
and mixed.
оружием служения
He thus
лучшим
becomes
стопом
attached to
духовного учителя
religion,
и верховной
economic
личности
development,
Бога,
sense
служением
gratification,
очень
and the
усердно,
monistic theory
не
of
жалея сил.
liberation, merging with the Supreme.
Конец.
He works
11
very
главы.
hard, day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters the
Глава
forest to
12,
acquire some
пятая
articles to sell later for
Беседа
profit.
Джады Бхараты и Махараджи Рахуганы. Царь
However,
Рахугана сказал:
he cannot really achieve happiness
«О
within
великий,
this
ты не
material world.
отличен от самого Бога,
O
верховной
King
личности.
Rahugana, in this forest of material existence there
Ты
are six
устранил все
very
противоречия,
powerful
какие
plunderers.
только можно найти в
When the
шахте.
conditioned soul
Ты исполнен
enters the
трансцендентного
forest to
блаженства,
acquire some material
но
gain,
скрываешь
the
его
six
подобником
plunderers misguide
недостойного
him.
сына Брамана.
Thus, the
Я
conditioned
склоняюсь перед
merchant
тобой в
does
глубоком
not know
почтении.
how to
О
spend
лучший из
his
браманов,
money,
мое
and it is
тело
taken away
вместилище
by
нечистот,
these
а
plunderers,
взор мой
like tigers,
помутился
jackals,
от
and
того, что
other
меня
ferocious
ужалила
animals
змея
in the
гордыни.
forest,
Я тяжело
that
болен,
already
ибо
that
смотрю
are
на
ready
все
to take
с
away the
материальной
lamb
точки
from
зрения,
the
но
custody
твои
of its
наставления,
protector.
подобно
The
чудодейственному
wife and
эликсиру,
children enter the
способны
heart
умерить
of the merchant
умерить
and
мой
plunder
жар,
him in
так же,
so
как
many ways.
холодная вода приносит облегчение путнику, измученному зноем. У меня еще остались кое-какие сомнения, но прежде чем раскрыть их, я должен признать, что твои наставления о
In
том,
this forest
как
there are
осознать
dense
свою
bowers
духовную природу
composed
с помощью мистической йоги,
of thickets and
показались мне
bushes,
слишком
grass and
сложными.
creepers.
Будь
In these
милостив,
bowers, the conditioned
повтори их
soul is always
и
disturbed
поясни,
by cruelly
так,
biting
чтобы я смог
mosquitoes,
понять.
envious people.
Я говорю желание,
Sometimes
я
he
дарю
sees an
желание
imaginary place in the
проникнуть в
forest,
тайну
and
твоих
sometimes
слов.
he's bewildered by
О, владыка
seeing a
египетских
fleeting
сил,
friend,
ты
fiend, or
сказал,
ghost,
что
which appears
хотя
like
мы
a
иногда
meteor in the
испытываем
sky.
усталость,
My
вызванную
dear king,
перемещением
the
тела,
merchant
на
on the
самом деле
forest
ее не
path of the
существует.
material
Мы
world,
говорим
who
о
is
ней лишь
intelligence
потому, что так
victimized
принято.
by home,
Мне
wealth,
кажется,
relatives, and
что
so on,
подобное объяснение,
runs from one
так
place
же,
to
как и
another
вопросы
in search
на
of
такие
success.
темы, мне
Sometimes
помогают
his eyes are
постичь
covered by dust
абсолютную
of a
истину.
whirlwind.
Поэтому
That is to say,
Поэтому
in his
твои
lust he
слова
is captivated by the
немного
beauty of
смутили
his
меня.
wife, especially during her
Великий
menstrual
Браман
period.
Джада Бхарата, который познал свою духовную
Thus his eyes are
природу, сказал:
blinded, and he cannot see where to go or what he is
взаимодействуя
doing.
друг с другом,
Wandering in the forest of the
различные
material
проявления
world,
материи
the conditioned soul sometimes hears an
соединяются
invisible
и
cricket
образуют
making harsh
всевозможные
sounds.
тела.
and his
Многие
ears
из этих
become
тел
very much aggrieved.
состоят из земли.
Sometimes
Сейчас по
his
той или иной
heart is
причине
pained by
такие
the
тела
sound of
движутся
owls,
по земной
which are just
тверди
like the
и
harsh
зовутся
words of his
носильщиками
enemies.
паланкина.
Sometimes he takes
Среди
shelter
грубых
of a tree
материальных тел
that has no
есть
fruits or
и
flowers.
неподвижные.
He approaches such a
Например,
tree due
камни.
to strong
В
appetite,
любом
and
случае,
thus he
материальное
suffers.
тело – это
He would
всего
like to
лишь
acquire
земля
water,
в форме
but
стоп,
he is simply
ног, колен,
illusioned by the
бедер,
mirage,
туловища,
and he
шеи
runs
и головы.
after it.
На плечах таких тел опирается
Sometimes the
деревянный
conditioned soul
паланкин, а в паланкине сидит так
jumps
называемый
into a shallow
царь
river,
Саувиры.
or,
Царское
being short
тело
of food,
– это всего лишь
grains,
еще
he
один
goes
комок
to
земли.
beg food from
Однако
people
в
who are
этом теле
not
находишься
at all
ты, мой
charitable.
господин, и мнешь себя
Sometimes he suffers from the
правителем
burning
Синху
heat
и
of the
Саувиры.
household life,
Эти
which is like a
несчастные,
forest
которые не
fire.
получают ни гроша
And
за то,
sometimes he becomes
что несут твой
sad
паланкин,
to have his
конечно
wealth,
же, страдают от
which, as
такой
a deer,
несправедливости. Они
which is
достойны
as
жалости,
dear as
ведь
life,
ты силой
plundered by
заставил служить
kings in
тебе.
the name
Ты
of
очень жестоко
heavy income
обходишься
taxes,
с подданными и в то же
sometimes
время
being defeated
ослепленный
and plundered by a
гордыней
superior,
считаешь
powerful
себя их
agent. A
защитником.
living entity
Это
loses
просто
all
смешно.
his possessions. He then becomes
Ты
very
ведешь себя
morose,
настолько
and
глупо,
lamenting the
что
loss, he
окажись ты в
sometimes
обществе
becomes
ученых людей,
unconscious. Sometimes he
никто
imagines a great
никто не
palatial
выразил бы
city
тебе
in which he
почтение.
desires to live
Все бы
happily with his
обитатели
family
этой
members
планеты,
and riches.
все мы,
He thinks
обитатели
himself
этой
fully
планеты,
satisfied
суть живых
if this
существ,
is possible,
суть
but
живых
such
существа,
so-called happiness
пребывающие в
continues
разных телах.
only for a
Одни
moment.
из нас способны перемещаться, другие нет.
Sometimes
Но
the
в любом случае
merchant in the
каждый
forest wants
появляется
to
на
climb the
свет,
hills and
какое-то время
mountains,
существует,
but
а
due
затем
to
его тело
insufficient footwear,
уничтожается
his
и
feet are
обращается в
pricked by
землю.
small
Так
stone
что все
fragments
живые
and by
организмы
thorns
– это
on the
просто
mountain.
земля, принявшая
Being pricked by
разные
them, he
формы.
becomes
Все
very
эти тела,
grieved.
наделенные
Sometimes a person
разнообразными
who is very
качествами и
attached to his family
способностями,
becomes
возникают в
overwhelmed with
результате
hunger,
различных преобразований
and due to his
земли,
miserable
а затем,
condition, he
разрушаясь,
becomes
вновь
furious with his family members.
вновь смешиваются с ней.
The conditioned
Поэтому
soul in the
можно
material
сказать,
forest is
что
sometimes
существуют не сами
swallowed by
тела,
a
а лишь
person.
их название. Иными словами, все мы прах, и в прах
By a
возвратимся.
python or
Любой,
crushed.
кто хорошо подумает,
At such a
придет к такому
time,
же
he
выводу.
is left lying in
Кто-то
the
может
forest like a
сказать,
dead
что
person,
источником всего
devoid of
многообразия
consciousness and
тел
knowledge.
является сама планета
Sometimes
Земля.
other poisonous
Однако
snakes
даже
bite
всю
him.
земную,
Being
однако
blind
даже
to his
всю
consciousness, he
Вселенную
falls
нельзя
down into
считать
the
реально
dark well of
существующей.
hellish life, with no hope of
Хоть и
being
кажется,
rescued.
что она существует какое-то время. Вселенная возникла в результате соединения атомов, но сами атомы не
Sometimes, in
вечны.
order to have a
Поэтому,
little
хотя
insignificant
некоторые
sex
философы
enjoyment,
считают
one searches after
атом
debauched
причиной
women.
возникновения Вселенной,
In
на
this
самом
attempt,
деле это
one
не так.
insults the chest
Как можно
and
думать,
insulted and chastised by the
что весь
women's
этот мир
kinsmen.
со всем его
This is like going to
многообразием
take
возник
honey
только
from a
лишь благодаря
beehive and being
соединению
attacked
атомов.
by the bees.
Итак, в высшем
Sometimes,
смысле
after spending
Вселенной
lots of
не
money, one
существует,
may
поэтому
acquire
все,
another woman
что
for
можно
some
встретить в ее
extra
пределах,
sense
в том
enjoyment.
числе и
Unfortunately,
различия
the object of
между
sense
высоким
enjoyment, the
и
woman,
низким,
is
худым,
taken
и
away
тучным,
or
малым, и
kidnapped
большим,
by
а
another
также
debauchee.
всевозможные причины и следствия,
Sometimes the living
признаки жизни
entity
и
is
вещества
busy
– это
counteracting
не
the
более
natural
чем плод
disturbances of
воображения.
freezing cold,
Все это
scorching heat,
горшки,
strong
которые
winds,
сделаны из
excessive
одного и того
rainfall,
же
and so
материала
forth.
– земли,
When he
и
is
носят
unable
разные
to do
названия.
so, he becomes
Хотя они
very unhappy.
различаются по своему
Sometimes he is cheated
назначению,
in business
свойствам,
transactions,
положению,
one
сроку
after the other.
существования и
In this
характеру
way, by
деятельности,
cheating,
знай,
living entities
что
create
каждый из них
enmity among
всего лишь
themselves.
продукт механического
On the
творения,
forest path of
материальной
material
природы.
existence, sometimes
Так
a
что же
person
такое
is
высшая
without
истина?
wealth due to
Высшая истина – это недвойственное
this,
знание,
and due to this
которое
does not
не
have
может
proper
коснуться
home,
скверно,
bed, or sitting place,
которого
nor proper
не
family
может коснуться скверно
enjoy,
материальных качеств.
nor proper family
Это знание
enjoyment.
приводит
He
человека к
therefore goes to beg
освобождению.
money from
Оно
others,
единственное
but
в
when
своем роде.
his desires are not
Недоступное
fulfilled by
воображению
begging, he
и
wants to borrow or
всепроникающее.
steal the property
На
of
первом
others.
этапе
This
обретения
is
этого знания человек
insulted in
достигает брахман.
Thus
Второй
he
этап
is
– постижение
insulted
параматмы,
in
сфер души.
society.
Ее
Due
способность
to monetary
видеть йоги,
transactions, relationships
свободные от
become
всех
very
мирских тревог и
strained
печалей.
and
А
end in
полностью
enmity.
обрести
Sometimes
это
the husband and
высочайшее
wife
знание может
walk
только тот, кто
on the
постиг
path of
верховную
material
личность.
progress, and to
Все
maintain their
великие мудрецы
relationships they work
утверждают,
very
что
hard.
верховная личность – это
Sometimes due to
Господь
scarcity of
Васудева,
money
источник
or
Брамана,
due to
Параматмы
diseased condition,
и
they
всех
are
остальных
embarrassed,
проявлений.
almost
Outside
die.
Лишь тот
My dear
способен
king,
постичь
on the
абсолютную
forest path
истину,
of material
кому
life,
выпала удача осыпать свое тело пылью
first a person is
сотосный стоп
bereft
великих
of his
преданных.
father and
Чтобы
mother,
приблизиться
and
к
after their
абсолютной
death he
истине,
becomes
недостаточно
attached to his
хранить
newly
обет
born
безбрачия,
children.
брамачарью.
In this way he wanders
Добросовестно
on the
выполнять
path of
обязанности
material progress
домохозяина,
and is
покинуть
eventually
дом
embarrassed.
и стать
Nonetheless,
понапрасхой,
no
принять
one knows
саньясу,
how to
или
get
же
out of
предаваться
this, even
суровой
up to
аскезе,
the moment
например,
of
зимой
death.
стоять в ледяной воде, а летом
There
сидеть
were and
под
are many
палящим солнцем
politicians and
в
social
окружении
heroes who
костров.
have conquered
Есть
enemies
еще много
of equal
методов, с
power,
помощью которых
yet
люди
due to their
пытаются постичь
ignorance
абсолютную
in
истину.
believing that
Однако
the
абсолютная
land
истина
is theirs,
открывается
they
только
fight
тому,
one another and
кто
lay down their
удостоился
lives in
милости
battle.
великого преданного.
They are not able to
Кто же эти
take up
великие
the
чистые
spiritual
преданные?
path
О
accepted by
ком мы
those
говорим?
in the renounced
В кругу
order.
таких преданных
Although they
никогда не
are
услышишь
big heroes
разговоров на
and
мирские
political
темы,
leaders, they
о
cannot
политике,
take to the
жизни,
path of
общества и
spiritual
тому подобное.
realization.
Чистые преданные беседуют
Sometimes the
только о
living
качествах,
entity in the forest of
воплощениях
material existence
и
takes shelter
деяниях
of creepers
верховной личности
and
Бога.
desires to hear the
Они всегда
chirping of the
прославляют
birds.
Господа и
In those
поклоняются Ему с
creepers,
неослабным
being
вниманием.
afraid of
Общаясь с
roaring
чистыми
lions
преданными
in the
и
forest,
смиренно
he
внимая
makes
их
friends
беседам,
with cranes,
даже тот,
herons, and vultures.
кто желает слиться с бытием абсолютной истины, со временем откажется от этого намерения и
Being cheated
посвятит
by
себя
them, the
служению
living
Господу
entity in the
Асудеве.
forest of the material world
В одной из
tries to
прошлых
give
жизней
up the
я был
association
царем,
of these
меня звали
so-called
Махараджей
yogis,
Бхаратой.
swamis, and
Познав на
incarnations,
собственном опыте
and come
всю
to the
тщетность и
association of
бессмысленность
real
мирских дел,
devotees.
я
But due
полностью
to
отрешился от
misfortune,
них
he cannot follow the
и с
instructions of the
помощью
spiritual
знаний,
master or
полученных
advanced
из вед,
devotees.
достиг духовного
Therefore, he gives
совершенства.
up their
Я был
company
поглощен
and again
служением
returns
Господу.
to the
Но случилось
association of
так,
monkeys,
что на свою беду
who
я
are
привязался
simply
к элементам.
interested in sense
Эта
gratification
привязанность
and
оказалась
women.
такой сильной,
He
что
derives
из-за нее
satisfaction
я
by
оставил духовную
associating with sense
практику.
gratifiers
За
and
это в
enjoying
следующей
sex and
жизни мне пришлось
intoxication.
родиться оленем.
In this way, he
О,
spoils
доблестный
his
царь,
life
даже
simply by
оказавшись в теле
indulging in
оленя,
sex and
я помнил всю
intoxication.
свою предыдущую жизнь,
Looking into the
потому что
faces of other
прежде
sense gratifiers, he
искренне
becomes
служил Господу.
forgetful
И сейчас,
and
зная
thus
причину своего
approaches
прошлого
death.
падения, я
When
всегда
the living entity
сторонился
becomes
обыкновенных
exactly like a
материалистичных
monkey,
людей.
jumping
Я
from
очень
one
боюсь
branch to
попасть
the other,
под их
another,
дурное
he remains in
влияние,
the
и
tree of
потому
household life
странствую в
without any
одиночестве,
profit but
скрываясь
sex.
от всех,
Thus
кто
he
я
is
такой.
kicked by his
Просто
wife,
общаясь
just
с
like the
возвышенными
he-ass.
преданными,
Unable to gain release,
любой
he remains
сможет
helplessly
обрести
in that
совершенное
position.
знание и мечом этого знания разрубить путы иллюзорной мирской,
Sometimes he falls
иллюзорного
victim to an
мирского
uncomfort
общения,
disease,
что
incurable
удерживает душу в
disease,
плену материи.
but which is like
Общение с
falling into a
преданными
mountain
дарует
cave.
человеку
He becomes
возможность
afraid
служить
of death,
Господу,
which is
слушая
like the
и
elephant
прославляя
in the
его.
black back
Шраманам
of the
Киртаном.
cave, and he
Так
remains
можно пробудить в
stranded,
себе сознание
gasping at the
Кришны
twigs
и,
and
уверенно
branches of
идя
a
по этому
creeper.
пути, уже в
O
будущей
killer of
жизни
the enemies,
вернуться домой к Богу.
Maharaji
Конец
Hugana,
12 главы.
if the conditioned soul somehow or other gets out of his dangerous position,
Глава 13.
he again
5 стих.
returns to his home to enjoy
Продолжение
sex
беседы Джаби
life,
Бхараты и
for that
Махараджа
is the
Рахулы.
way of
Джаба
attachment.
Бхарата, в
Thus,
совершенстве
under the spell
познавший
of the
природу
Lord's
Брахмана,
material
продолжал.
energy, he continues to loiter in the forest
Природу
of
Брахмана.
material existence.
Продолжал.
He does not discover
О
his
Махараджа
real
Рахулана,
interest even at the point of
блуждая
death.
в лабиринте материального мира, живое существо терпит
My dear
муки,
King Rahukana,
повторяющие рождений и смертей. Околдованное тремя гунами природы,
you are also a
раджа и
victim of the
тамагуны,
external energy,
оно видит
being
плоды только
situated
тех
on the
действий,
path of
которые
attraction to material pleasure,
совершаются под влиянием
so that you may
материальной
become
энергии.
equal and
Эти
equal
плоды
friend
бывают
to
трех
all living
видов:
entities.
благие,
I
дурные
now
и
advise you to
смешанные.
give up your
Так
kingly
у живого
position
существа возникает
and the rod by
привязанность
which you
к
punish
религиозным
criminals.
обрядам,
Give
материальным
up
благополучиям,
attraction and
чувственным
to the
удовольствиям
sense
и
objects, and
учению
take up the
монизма,
sword of knowledge
сулящему
sharpened by devotional
освобождение,
service.
слияние со Всевышним. Живое существо трудится, не покладая рук, подобно торговцу, который
Then you
приходит
will
в
be
лес
able to
и
cut
до
the hard
поздней
knot of
ночи
illusory
собирает
energy
лесные
and
дары,
cross to
чтобы
the other
потом
side of
выгодно
the
их
ocean
продать.
of nations. King Rahugana said, "This birth as a human being
Но
is
несмотря
the
на все
best
свои
of all.
усилия, живое
Even
существо
birth
так и не
among the
находит в этом мире
demigods in the
истинного
heavenly
счастья.
planets is not
Отца,
as glorious
в
as
лесу
a birth
материального бытия
as a human being
душу
on this earth.
поджидают 6
What is the
семей
use
и
of the
ловких
exalted
разбойников.
position of a
Когда
demigod
обусловленная душа в
in
поисках
the
материальной
heavenly
выгоды
planets due to
заходит
profuse material
в
comforts?
этот лес,
There is no
разбойники
possibility
вводят
of
ее
associating
в
with
заблуждение. Она
devotees.
словно неопытный торговец, не знает, куда вложить свои деньги, и разбойники
It is not at all
отбирают их.
is it not at all
на нее
wonderful
нападают
that
близкие
simply by being
родственники,
covered by the
подобно
dust of your
тиграм,
lotus feet,
шакалам и другим
one
свирепым
immediately
хищникам,
attains the
которые
platform of
только
pure
и ждут
devotional service
удобного
to a
случая, чтобы
dokshaja,
похитить
which is
ягненка.
not available even
Пусть
to
и
great
имущего стада
demigods like
пастуха,
Brahma.
жена и дети
By associating with
находят
you for just a
путь к
moment, I am
сердцу
now
обусловленной
freed from
души
all
и
argument, false prestige, and
немилосердно
lack
грабит
of
ее.
discrimination,
Все дальше
which are
забираясь в
the
этот
roots
лес,
of
обусловленная
entanglement
душа
and
попадает в непроходные заросли кустарников, лиан и высоких трав.
in the material
Там
world.
ее
Now I am free
непрестанно
from all
кусают
these
безжалостные
problems.
комары, недоброжелатели.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you,
Иногда она
the great
видит в лесу
personalities,
призрачный
whether they
дворец,
walk on the
а
earth's
иногда
surface
перед
as a
ней
child, young
изумленным
boys,
взором,
avadutes,
словно
or great
метеор в
brahmanas,
небе,
even if they are hidden under four guises, under different guises.
О царь,
I offer
оказавшись
my
на лесной
respect
тропе
to all of
материального
them.
мира,
By their mercy, may there be good fortune to the royal
торговец,
dynasties that
поглощенный
are
мыслями
always
о доме, имуществе
offending
и
them.
родственниках, переходит с места на место в надежде
Srila
совершить
Shukadev Goswami
выгодную сделку.
continued,
Иногда глаза ему
My dear king, O son of
застилает
Mother
пыль,
Uttara,
поднятая
there
свечой.
were some waves
Другими
of
словами,
dissatisfaction
под
in the
влиянием
mind of
вожделения,
King of
красота
Jadbharat, due to his
жены,
being insulted
особенно
by
во время
King
менструального
Rahugana,
периода,
who made him carry
кружит
his
ему голову.
palanquin. But
Ослепительный этим
Jadbharat
смерчем,
neglected this,
он уже не
and
видит
in
перед
his
собой дороги и не понимает, что делает.
his heart
Скитаясь
again
по лесу
became calm
материального
and
мира,
quiet like the
обусловленная
ocean.
душа то и дело слышит терзающий слух стрекот
Although
невидимого
King
сверчка,
Rahugana had
а иногда
insulted
сердце
him,
ей ранит ухание совы, подобное жестоким
he was
словам
not
врагов.
a great Paramahamsa.
Время от времени душа ищет прибежище у дерева, на котором не растет ни
Being a
плодов, ни
Vaishnava,
цветов.
he was naturally
Страдая от голода,
very kind-hearted, and he
она
therefore
подходит
told the king about the
к такому
constitutional
дереву в
position of
надежде
the soul.
сорвать какой-нибудь
He
плод,
then forgot
однако ее
about
ждет
the insults
разочарование.
because
А
King
когда ее
Rahugana
мучит жажда,
pitifully
она
begged
ищет воду,
pardon
но
at
воды
his lotus
нигде нет.
feet.
И
After
только
this,
мираж.
he
И
began to
она бежит
wander
на этот
all over the
за
earth,
этим миражом.
just as before.
Иногда, спасаясь от жары,
After receiving
обусловленная
lessons
душа
from the great
прыгает
devotee,
в
Jadbharat,
обмелевшую
King
реку, а иногда,
Rahugana
измученная
of the
голодом,
state
она
of
просит поесть у
Saurvira
людей,
became
которые
completely
никогда не
aware
подадут
of the
милости.
constitutional position
Иногда
of
она
the soul.
корчится в огне семейной
He
жизни,
thus gave up the
что
bodily
подобно
conception
лесному пожару,
completely.
или
My dear
горюет
king,
от того,
whoever takes
что
shelter
правители
of the
облагают
servant
ее
of the servant of the
непомерными
Lord is
налогами
certainly glorified,
и отнимает
because
все,
he
все
can without
сбережения,
difficulty
которые
give up
дороги
the
ей,
bodily
как сама жизнь.
conception.
Иногда на обусловленную душу нападает могущественный враг. Он побеждает ее и грабит, отбирая последнее имущество.
King Parikshit then told Shukadev Goswami,
она впадает в
My dear
уныние
Lord,
и
O great
сокрушается
devotee
об
sage,
утрате.
you are
даже
omniscient. You have very nicely
лишится
described the
чувств.
position of the conditioned
Временами
soul
обусловленная душа
who is compared to a merchant in the forest.
создает в
From
своем
these
воображении
instructions,
целый
intelligent men
город с
can
роскошными
understand
дворцами
that the
и
same
мечтает зажить в нем
Sages
богато и счастливо
of a
вместе со своей
person in
семьей.
the bodily
Иногда ей
conception
кажется,
are
что
like
она
robes
полностью
and thieves.
удовлетворена,
In that
однако ее
forest,
так
one's
называемое
wife
счастье
and
длится
children
всего
are like
мгновение.
jackals and
Иногда,
other ferocious
бродя по
animals.
лесу,
However,
путник
it is
пытается
very easy
забраться на
for the
холм или
unintelligent
гору,
to understand
но
the
из-за того,
purport
что
of the
обувь
story
его
because it
недостаточно
is
прочная,
difficult to
колючки и острые
extricate
камешки
the exact
ранят ему
meaning from
ноги,
the
и это
allegory.
очень угнетает его.
Therefore,
А иногда
request
он,
Your
обезумев от
Holiness
голода, срывает
to
гнев
give the
на членов
direct
своей
meaning.
семьи, хотя и очень привязан к ним. В лесу материального мира на обусловленную душу нападает питон. Он либо заглатывает ее, либо давит
Thus, in
своих
chapter
кольцах,
13 of the
и
5th
тогда она
canto,
лежит в
further
лесу,
talks
словно
between
мертвая,
King
забыв
Rahugana
себя
and
и ничего не
Jadbharat.
понимая. Временами ее жалят ядовитые змеи. От их укусов она ослепнет и, потеряв сознание, проваливается в темный колодец
Chapter
адской
14
жизни,
The material
откуда ей
world
уже
as the great
никогда
forest
не
of
выбраться.
enjoyment.
Ради мимолетного полового
When King
наслаждения
Parikshit
человек
asked
ищет
Shukadev
общество
Goswami
распутных женщин.
about the direct
И нередко ему
meaning of the material
приходится
forest,
сносить
Shukadev Goswami
оскорбления и
replied as
побои
follows.
от родственников
My dear
этих
king,
женщин.
a man belonging to the
Это всё
mercantile
равно,
caste,
что
mercantile
пытаться
community,
набрать меда
is
улья
always interested in earning money.
и
Sometimes he
и
enters
страдать от укусов
the
пчел.
forest to acquire
Бывает,
some cheap
что он
commodities like
покупает
wood
женщину
and earth
за немалые деньги,
and sell them in the
какой-нибудь
city
другой
at good
распутник
prices.
отбивает или
Similarly,
похищает
the
у него
conditioned
этот
soul,
объект
being greedy,
наслаждений.
enters this
дело живое
material world for
существо
some material
борется
profit.
с сильным
Gradually
холодом,
he
жарой,
enters
ураганным
the
ветром,
deepest
проливным
parts of the
дождем
forest,
и
not really
другими
knowing
силами
how to get
природы.
out.
Терпя поражение
Having
в
entered the
борьбе с
material world,
стихиями,
and the
он
pure soul
чувствует себя
becomes
глубоко
conditioned by the
несчастным,
material
а иногда,
atmosphere, which is
заключая
created by
торговые
the
сделки,
external energy
оно
under the
становится
control of
жертвой
Lord
мошенничества.
Vishnu. Thus the living
Так,
entity
обманывая
comes
друг
under
друга,
the
живые
control of the
существа
external
сеют
energy,
между собой
Daivi
вражду.
Maya.
Блуждая по тропинкам в лесу
Living
материального
independently
бытия,
and bewildered
человек
in the
нередко
forest,
остается
he
без
does not
средств
attain the
к
association of
существованию.
devotees who are
У него
always
нет ни
engaged
дома,
in the
ни
service of
места,
the
где
Lord.
можно присесть или
Once
прилечь,
in the bodily
ни семейных
conception, he
радостей.
gets different
Тогда он
types of bodies,
начинает
one
попрошайничать,
after
а
another,
если не
under the
добивается
influence of
желаемого,
the material
то
energy.
входит в долги или встает на путь воровства. За это его всячески унижают и поносят. Из-за
And
денег
impelled by the
отношения
modes
между
of
людьми
material nature,
становятся напряженными и в конце
Sattva-gun,
концов
Rajagun, and Tamagun.
перерастают в
In this
открытую
way,
вражду.
the conditioned soul goes sometimes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to the earthly planets, and sometimes to the lower planets in the lower species. Thus he suffers continuously due to different types of bodies. These sufferings and pains are
на
so
грани смерти. О царь, вступив в лесную тропу материальной жизни, живое существо лишается отца и с матерью.
Thus he suffers
После
continuously due to
смерти
different
оно
types of
чувствует
bodies.
особенно
These sufferings
сильную
and pains are
привязанность к
sometimes mixed.
собственным детям.
Sometimes they are very
Оно
severe,
бредет
sometimes they are
дорогой
not.
материального
These
процветания и
bodily
в конце
conditions
концов
are
оказывается
acquired due
полностью
to the
сбитым
conditioned
с
soul's
толку.
mental
Оно умирает,
speculation.
так и не
He is
узнав,
not his mind and
как
five senses
вырваться из этого
to acquire
запутанного
knowledge.
круга. На свете
And
было и есть немало героев, которые
these bring
прославились
about
в поприще политики и служении обществу, и победителей, уступавших им силы
using the
врагов.
senses under the
Однако все
control
эти
of the
герои
external energy
по своему
Maya, the living
невежеству
entity
думают,
suffers
что
the
земля,
miserable
где они
conditions of
родились,
material
принадлежит
existence.
им. Поэтому они сражаются друг с другом
He
и
is actually
погибают
searching
на
for
поле
relief,
битвы.
but he is generally
Такие люди,
baffled,
не
although
способные идти
sometimes he is
духовным путем,
relieved
которые
after great
избирают тех,
difficulty,
кто отрекся
struggling
от
for
мира.
existence in
Они
this
могут
way.
быть великими народными
He cannot
кумирами
come,
и вождями, но встать на
he
путь
cannot
духовного
get the shelter of
самопознания
pure
им не
devotees.
под силу. Иногда живое существо,
Who are like
иногда живое
bumblebees
существо,
engaged in the loving
блуждающее
service
по
of the
лесу
lotus feet of
материального
Lord Vishnu.
бытия, укрывается в зарослях
In
лиан
the
и
forest of
слушает
material
пение
existence, the
обитающих там птиц.
under-controlled
А
senses
иногда,
are like
испугавшись львиного
plunderers.
рыка, оно
The
дарует
conditioned soul may earn some
цаплями и
money for the
стервятниками.
advancement of Krishna
Поняв,
consciousness,
что все
but
эти так
unfortunately the
называемые
uncontrolled
йоги,
senses
с
plunder
вами
his
и
money
аватары
through sense
обманывают его,
gratification.
живое
The
существо
senses are
решает
plundered
расстаться с
because
ним.
they make one spend his money
Оно идет к
unnecessarily
тем,
for
кто
seeing,
по-настоящему предан
smelling,
Господу. Однако и
tasting,
здесь его преследует
touching,
злой рок,
hearing,
будучи не в
desiring,
силах
and
придерживаться
willing.
наставлений
In this
духовного
way,
учителя
the
и
conditioned
других
soul
возвышенных
is
преданных.
smelling,
Спустя какое-то время живое существо покидает их и
tasting,
возвращается
touching,
к обезьянам,
hearing, desiring, and
кого
willing.
интересуют только женщины и чувственные удовольствия. В кругу повес и распутников
In
оно
this way, the
ищет
conditioned soul
наслаждение
is
в
obliged to
вине и
gratify his
сексе,
senses,
и
and thus
предаваясь
all
этим
his money
порокам,
is spent.
прожигает свою жизнь.
This money is actually
Глядя на
acquired
лица
for the
других
execution of religious
прожигателей
principles,
жизни,
but it is
оно
taken away by
забывает
the
обо всем
plundering
на свете
senses.
и мчится навстречу смерти. Став в точности как
My dear
обезьяна,
king, family members in this material world go under the names of wife and children, but actually they behave like tigers and jackals. A herdsman tries to protect his sheep to the best of his ability, but the tigers and foxes take them away by force. Similarly, although a miserly man wants to guard his money very carefully, his family members take away all his assets forcibly, even though he is very vigilant. Every year, the plowman plows over his grain fields, completely uprooting all weeds. Nonetheless, the seeds lie there and not being completely.
Она сразу устремляется домой, чтобы опять наслаждаться сексом. Такова природа материальной привязанности. Околдованные
The
материальной
weeds come
энергией
up densely.
Господа,
Similarly, Grihastha ashram is a field of fruitive activity. Unless the desire to enjoy fruitive life is completely burned out, it grows up again and again. Even though camphor may be used to remove, as long as the seed of desire are not destroyed,
и ко всем относиться одинаково, вот тебе мой совет. Отрекись от царской власти.
Sometimes the conditioned soul in household life, being attached to material wealth and possessions, is disturbed by gadflies and mosquitoes, and sometimes locusts, bird of prey, and rats give him trouble. Nonetheless, he still wanders down the path of material existence. Due to ignorance, he becomes lusty and engages in fruitive activity. Because his mind is absorbed in these activities, he sees the material world as permanent, although it is temporary, like a phantasmagoria in a house in the sky. Sometimes in this house, in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul, drinks, eats, and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses, just as a deer chases a mirage to the desert. Sometimes the living entity is interested in the yellow stool known as gold and runs after it. That gold is the source of material opulence and envy,
которая недоступна даже Брахме и другим великим полубогам. Мимолетное общение с тобой подрубило корни моего материального рабства, пристрастие к порочным доводам.
Those whose minds are overcome by the mode of passion are attached to the color of gold, just as the man suffering from a cold in the forest runs after phosphorescent light in the marshy land, considering it to be fire. Sometimes the conditioned soul is absorbed in finding residential quarters or apartments and getting a supply of water and riches to maintain his body. Absorbed in acquiring a variety of necessities, he forgets everything and perpetually runs around the forest of material existence. Sometimes, as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the conditioned soul sees the beauty of the opposite sex, which is called pramada. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the rules and regulations governing sex life. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods, and he enjoys illicit sex in the dead of the night, not seeing the future punishment awaiting him. The conditioned soul sometimes personally appreciates the futility of sense enjoyment in the material world, and he sometimes considers material enjoyment to be full of miseries. However, due to his strong bodily conception, his memory is destroyed, and again he runs after material enjoyment, just as an animal runs after a mirage in the desert. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants, who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sound of owls and crickets. Due to his pious activities in previous lives, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. But when they are finished, he takes shelter of wealth and riches, which cannot help him in this life or the next. Because of this, he approaches the living dead who possess these things. Such people are compared to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. Sometimes, to mitigate distress in the forest of the material world, The conditioned soul
Пятая
receives cheap
Материальный
blessings from
мир как
atheists.
огромный
He
лес
then loses all
наслаждения.
intelligence in the
Когда
association
Махараджа Парикшит
in their
попросил
association.
Шукадеву Госвами
This is
объяснить
exactly like
смысл
jumping
притчи
in a
о
shallow
весе
river.
материального мира, Шукадева сказал: «О царь,
As the result, one
торговец
simply
постоянно
breaks his
думает,
head.
как
He is not
заработать
able to
больше
mitigate
денег.
his sufferings from the
Иногда он
heat,
приходит в
and
лес
in both ways
запастись
he
дешевыми
suffers.
товарами, дровами,
The
глиной
misguided
и прочим,
conditioned
чтобы
soul
потом
also
выгодно продать
approaches
их
so-called
в городе.
sadhus and
Точно
swamis
так же
who preach
обусловленная
against the
душа,
principles of the Vedas.
снедаемая
He does not
алчностью,
receive
приходит в
benefit
этот
from
мир
them
в
either
поиске
in the present or
материальной
in the
выгоды.
future.
Зайдя далеко в лес,
In this material
торговец
world,
не
when the
всегда
conditioned
может
soul
найти
cannot
дорогу
arrange for
назад.
his
И
own
подобно
maintenance,
этому
despite
чистая душа,
exploiting others,
придя в
he
материальный мир,
tries to exploit his own
оказывается во
father or
власти его
son,
законов,
taking away
его
that
законов,
relative's
созданных
possessions, although they may be
внешней
very
энергией по воле Господа Вишну.
insignificant.
Так
If he
же
cannot
существо
acquire things
становится
from his
пленником
father,
внешней энергии
son,
Господа,
or other
да и
relatives, he
Майи.
is prepared to give them
Пытаясь
all kinds of
вести
trouble.
независимый образ жизни,
In this world, family
он
life is
блуждает по
exactly
лесу
like a
материального
blazing fire
бытия
in the
и
forest.
избегает встречи
There
с
is
преданными,
not the
которые
least
посвятили себя
happiness,
служению
and
Господу.
gradually one
Одержимая
becomes more
телесными
and more implicated in
представлениями о жизни,
unhappiness.
обусловленная душа
In household
получает
life,
одно
there is
за
nothing
другим тела
favorable
различных
for
типов,
perpetual
каждый из
happiness.
которых находится
Being
под влиянием
implicated
материальной энергии
in home life,
и
the
приводится
conditioned soul is burned by
в
the
действие
fire of
двумя гунами
lamentation.
природы – саттва,
Sometimes
раджа
he
и
condemns
тамагуни.
himself as being very
Переселяясь из тела в
unfortunate,
тело, душа
and
попадает
sometimes
то
he
на
claims that
райские
he
планеты,
suffers
то на средние, типа Земли,
because he performed no pious
то на
activities
низшие.
in his previous
Иногда
life.
она воплощается в высших
Government
формах
men
жизни,
are
а
always
иногда
like
в низших.
carnivorous demons called
В каждом теле ей
rakshasas,
приходится
man-eaters.
Эти
Sometimes
страдания
these
бывают
government men
разными,
turn against the
иногда очень
conditioned souls
суровыми,
and
а
take
иногда
away
нет.
his accumulated
Телесные
wealth.
страдания приходят к
Being
обусловленной
bereft
душе в
of his life,
результате деятельности
reserved
ее ума.
wealth, the conditioned
Она
soul
использует
loses all
ум и 5
enthusiasm.
органов
Indeed,
чувств,
it is as
чтобы
though he
познавать
loses his life.
окружающий мир. И эта деятельность определяет, в каком теле,
Sometimes
в
the
каких
conditioned
условиях
soul
жизни душа
imagines that his
окажется.
father or
Таким
grandfather
образом,
has again come
подчиняясь
from the
диктату внешней
son
энергии,
or grandson.
Майи,
In
обусловленная
this
душа
way, he
действует с
feels the
помощью своих
happiness
органов
one
чувств
sometimes
и
feels in a
испытывает
dream.
страдания
And the
материального
conditioned
бытия.
soul sometimes
Она
takes
пытается
pleasure in
избавиться
such
от
mental
страданий.
concoctions.
Но, как правило,
In household
безуспешно,
life,
хотя иногда
one is
ценой
ordered to
огромных
execute
усилий
many
ей
yagyas
удается
and
достичь
fruitive
временного
activities,
облегчения.
especially the Vivaha
Порабощенная
Yagya,
борьбой
the
за
marriage
существование,
ceremony for
душа
sons
не
and
способна
daughters,
довести покровительство
and the
чистых
sacred
преданных,
thread
которые,
ceremony.
словно пчелы,
These are all
собирающие
duties of a
нектар
grihasta,
с
and they are
прекрасных
all
цветов,
very
с любовью
extensive and
служат
troublesome
лотосным
to
стопам
execute.
Господа Вишну.
They are compared
В лесу
to a
материального
big
бытия
hill over
живут
which one must
разбойники,
cross when one is
необузданные
attached to
чувства.
material activities.
Иногда человеку
A
удается
person desiring to
скопить
cross
денег,
over these
и
ritualistic
стремясь
ceremonies
развить в
certainly
себе
feels
сознание
pain,
Кришны,
like the
он
piercing of
хочет
thorns
пожертвовать
and
их на
pebbles
духовные
endured
цели.
by one
Но,
attempting
как ни
to climb a
печально,
hill.
необузданные
Thus the conditioned
чувства
soul
отбирают у
suffers
него все деньги, увлекая
unlimitedly.
его в погоню за
Sometimes,
материальными
due to bodily
удовольствиями.
hunger and thirst,
Чувства
the
грабителей
conditioned soul
заставляют его
becomes so disturbed
растрачивать заработанные тяжким трудом деньги в попытках удовлетворить свои прихоти и
that he loses his patience and
наслаждаться с
becomes
помощью
angry with his own
зрения,
beloved
вкуса,
sons,
слуха,
daughters, and
обоняния
wife.
и осязания.
Thus, being unkind to them,
Так
he
обусловленный
suffers all the
человек,
more.
вынужденный
Shukadev Goswami
удовлетворять
continued speaking to
потребности своих
Maharaj
чувств,
Parikshit.
теряет
My
все
dear
свои
king,
сбережения.
sleep is
Эти
exactly
деньги
like a
должны были
python.
помочь ему идти
Those who
по темной
wander in
дуге.
the forest of
Но
material
алчные
life are
чувства
always devoured by
присваивают
the
их.
python
О
of
царь,
sleep. Being bitten
в
by this
материальном
python,
мире
they always
члены
remain
семьи,
in the darkness
хоть и
of
зовутся
ignorance.
женой и
They
детьми,
are like dead
ведут себя в
bodies
точности
thrown
как
in a
тигр
distant
и
forest.
шакалы.
Thus, the conditioned
Как
souls
бы
cannot
бдительно
understand
пастух не
what
стерег
is
свое
going
стадо,
on in life.
тигры и шакалы
In the forest
все
of the
равно
material
крадут у
life,
него
the conditioned
овец,
soul is
и как бы
sometimes
скупец
bitten
не
by
сберег
envious
свои
enemies,
деньги,
which are
домочадцы
compared to
все равно
serpents and
отнимают
other
их.
creatures.
Каждый год, перепахивая
Through
поле,
the
землепашец
tricks of the
с
enemy,
корня
the conditioned
вырывает все
soul
сорняки.
falls from his
Но
prestigious
поскольку
position.
семена
Being anxious,
остаются в земле,
he cannot even sleep
не
properly.
сожженными, сорняки
Thus,
снова
he thus
прорастают
becomes
вместе
more
с
and more
посеянными
unhappy,
злаками.
and he
Даже
gradually
после
loses
тщательной
his intelligence and
прополки
consciousness.
сорняки через какое-то
In that
время
state, he
снова
becomes
густо
almost perpetually like a
распространяются.
blind man
Точно
who
так
has
же
fallen into the dark
грехастка
well
аша
of
или
ignorance.
семейная жизнь –
The
это
conditioned
поле,
soul is
где
sometimes
прорастают
attracted to the
семена
little happiness
кармической
derived from
деятельности.
sense
Если не
gratification.
сжечь дотла
Thus, he
желание
has
наслаждаться
illicit sex
семейной
or
жизнью,
steals another's
то оно
property.
будет снова и снова
At that
давать
time,
всходы.
At such a time, he may be arrested by the government or chastised by the woman's husband or protector. Thus, simply for a little material satisfaction, he falls into a hellish condition and is put into jail for rape, kidnapping, theft, and so on. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because it is the original source of breeding and breeding ground of material miseries, both in this life and in the next. Stealing or cheating another person out of his money, the conditioned soul somehow or other keeps it in his possession and escapes punishment. Then another man named Devadatta cheats him and takes his money away. Similarly, another man named Vishnumitra steals money from Devadatta and takes it away. In any case, the money does not stay in one place. It passes from one hand to another. Ultimately, no one can enjoy the money, and it remains the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Being unable to protect himself from the threefold miseries of material existence, the conditioned soul becomes very morose and lives a life of lamentation. These threefold miseries are miseries suffered by mental calamity at the hands of the demigods, such as freezing wind and scorching heat, miseries offered by other living entities, and miseries arising from the mind and the body themselves. As far as transactions with money are concerned, if one person cheats another by a farthing or less, they become enemies. In this materialistic life, there are many dualities, as I have just mentioned. All of these are insurmountable. In addition, there are difficulties arising from so-called happiness, distress, attachment, hate, fear, false prestige, illusion, madness, lamentation, bewilderment, greed, envy, enmity, insult, hunger, thirst, tribulation, disease, birth, old age, and death. All these combine together to give the materialistic conditioned soul nothing but misery. Sometimes the conditioned soul is attacked by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. Thus he loses his intelligence as well as his knowledge for life's goals. At that time, no longer attempting spiritual cultivation, he becomes overly attached to his wife or girlfriend and tries to provide her with a suitable partner. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of their home and is captivated by talks, glances, and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself in the dense darkness of material existence. The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Brahma's death, and it controls all activities. It is always revolving and spending the lives of the living entities, from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus, one changes from infancy to childhood, to youth to maturity, and thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exciting because it is the personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from the imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefeatable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of a man-made god described in unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, parrots, and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them.
которые
Imminent
подобны
death
живым
is like the
мертвецам.
attack of a
Таких
lion,
людей
and neither
сравнивают
vultures,
с
buzzards,
неблагочестивыми
crows,
деревьями
nor herons
и
can save one from
ползущими
such an attack.
растениями, а также
One who
с
takes shelter of
отравленными
unauthorized
колодцами.
man-made
Иногда,
gods
надеясь
cannot be
облегчить
saved from the
свои
clutches
страдания
of death.
в лесу материального мира,
The
обусловленная
pseudo-swamis,
душа
yogis,
просит
and incarnations who do
благословения
not
у
believe in the
атеистов.
Supreme Personality of Godhead
Общаясь с
are
такими
known as
людьми, она
pashandis.
полностью теряет
They
разум.
themselves are
Это все равно,
fallen and cheated because they
что
do not know
прыгнув
the real path of
в
personal
обмелевшую
advancement,
реку.
and
Ты
whoever
от жары
goes to them
не
is certainly
спасешься и
cheated in
голову
his turn.
разобьешь. И от жары не спасешься и
When
голову
one is
разобьешь.
thus cheated,
Время
he
от
sometimes
времени
takes shelter
обусловленная
of the
душа
real followers of
обращается
Vedic
к
principles,
мнимым
brahmanas, or
садху,
those in Krishna
и с вами,
consciousness, who teach everyone how
чьи
to
учения
worship the Supreme
противоречат
Personality of
ведам.
Godhead
Их
according
проповедь
to the
не
Vedic
принесет ей
rituals.
никакого блага ни
However,
в этой
being
жизни, ни
unable
в
to stick to
следующей.
these principles,
Когда,
these rascals
несмотря на
again
все свои
fall down
попытки
and
жить
take shelter
за
among
чужой счет,
Shudras, who are
обусловленная
very
душа
expert in making
не
arrangements
способна
for
добыть
sex
себе
indulgence.
средства к существованию,
Sex is very
она
prominent among
пытается
animals like
отобрать
monkeys.
имущество у
Such
собственного
people
отца и сына.
who are enlivened by
Каким бы
sex may be
ничтожными
called descendants
оно
of
ни было.
monkeys.
Если же ей не удается
In this way, descendants
ничего
of the
получить от
monkeys
своих ближайших родственников,
intermingle with each
она
other,
готова
and they are
причинить
generally
им
known
любое
as
зло.
Shudras.
Семейная
Without
жизнь в
hesitating,
этом
they
мире
live
подобна
and move
бушующему
freely,
лесному пожару.
not knowing the
Она
goal
не
of life.
приносит никакого
They are
счастья
captivated
и лишь
simply by
все больше
seeing,
разочаровывает.
by
И
seeing
нет
the
ничего,
faces of one
что
another,
сделало бы
which
человека
remind them of
по-настоящему
sense
счастливым.
gratification.
Погрязшая в семейном
They are
деле,
always engaged in
обусловленная
material
душа
activities
горит в
known
огне
as
скорби. Иногда
gramya
она
karma,
клянет свою
and they work hard
несчастную
for material
судьбу, а иногда
benefit.
твердит,
Thus they
что
forget
страдает от
completely
того,
that
что
one
не
day their
совершила
small
в
lifespans
предыдущей
will be
жизни
finished
никаких
and they will
благочестивых
be
поступков.
degraded in the
Государственные
evolutionary
чиновники
cycle.
во все
Just as a
времена
monkey jumps
подобны
from one tree to
ракшасам,
another,
кровожадным,
the conditioned soul
демонам,
jumps from one
людоедам.
body to another.
Бывает,
As the
что
monkey
эти
is ultimately
чиновники
captured by the hunter
набрасываются
and
на
is unable to
обусловленную
get
душу
out
и
of
отнимают у нее все
captivity,
сбережения.
the conditioned
Лишившись
soul,
денег,
being
которые она
captivated
копила
by
долгие
momentary
годы,
sex pleasure,
обусловленная душа
becomes attached to different
погружается
types
в
of
скорбь
bodies
и
and is
кажется, будто
encaged
жизнь
in family
покинула ее.
life. Family
Подчас
life
обусловленная
affords the
душа
conditioned soul
думает,
festival of
что
momentary
ее
sex
умерший
pleasure,
отец
and
или
thus
дед
he is
вернулся к
completely
ней в
unable
облике
to
ее
get out
сына
of the
или
material
внука.
clutches.
Эти мысли приносят ей
In
счастье,
this material world,
подобно тому,
when the conditioned
которое
soul forgets his
случается
relationship
испытывать
with the
во сне.
Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not care for Krishna
наслаждается
consciousness,
своими
he
фантазиями,
simply engages in different types of
согласно
mischievous,
предписаниям
sinful activities. He is then
регулирующим
subjected to the
кармическую
threefold
деятельность
miseries,
семейный
and
человек
out of fear
должен
of the
совершать
elephant of
всевозможные
death,
ягги,
he falls
прежде
into
всего
darkness
ягью,
found
свадебную
in
церемонию
mountain
для
caves.
сыновей или дочерей.
The conditioned soul
А также обряд
suffers many
получения священного
miserable
шнура для сыновей.
bodily conditions,
Все это
such as being
обязанности грехастские,
affected
и
by
их
severe
выполнение
cold and strong
требует
winds.
немалых
He
затрат
also
и
suffers
хлопот.
due to activities
Семейные
of other
обязанности
living beings and
сравнивают с
due to
высокой
natural
горой, на
disturbances,
которую
when he is
должен зайти
unable to
тот, кто
counteract them
привязан к
and has to
материальной
remain
деятельности.
in the miserable
Стараясь
condition.
совершить
He
все
naturally
эти ритуалы,
becomes very
человек
morose
чувствует боль,
because he
как
wants
будто
to enjoy
взбирается
material
на гору,
facilities.
усыпанную колючками и острыми
Sometimes
камнями,
conditioned souls
которые ранят
exchange
ему
money,
ноги.
but in due course of
Так
time,
материальная
enmity
жизнь
arises
приносит обусловленной
because of
душе
cheating.
неисчислимые
Although there may
страдания.
be a tiny
Иногда
profit, the
обусловленного
conditioned soul
человека
ceases to be
охватывает
friends
сильный
and
голод или
becomes
жажда.
enemies.
В таком
Sometimes,
состоянии
having
он
no money,
впадает в
the conditioned soul
беспокойство,
does not get sufficient
теряет терпение
accommodations.
и
Sometimes he doesn't even have a place to sit,
зло
nor does he have
на
other
своих любимых
necessities.
сыновей,
In other
дочерях,
words, he
сыновьях,
falls
дочерях
into
и
scarcity.
жене.
And at
Он
that time,
обращается
when he
с
is
ними
unable
очень
to
грубо.
secure the
Из-за
necessities
этого
by fair means,
страдает еще
he
больше.
decides to seize the
Шукадева
property
Госвами
of others
продолжал,
unfairly.
что царь Парикша
When he cannot get the things he
подобен
wants,
огромному
he simply
питону,
receives insults
который
from others
заглатывает
and
всех,
thus
кто
becomes very
бродит по лесу
morose.
материального бытия.
Although people may be
Попав в
enemies
пасть
in
к
order to
этому
fulfill their
питону,
desires again
обусловленные
and
живые
again,
существа
they sometimes get unmarried.
пребывают во
Unfortunately,
мраке
these marriages,
невежества, словно
they sometimes get
мертвецы,
married.
лежащие в глухой
Unfortunately,
чаще,
these
и не
marriages do
понимают,
not
что
last
происходит
very
вокруг.
long, and the
Иногда в
people
лесу
involved
материального
are
бытия
separated
на
again by
обусловленную
divorce
душу
or other
нападают
means.
враги, которых сравнивают со
The path of
змеями
this
и
material world
другими
is full
злобными
of material
тварями.
miseries.
Из-за их
The various
происков
troubles disturb the
обусловленная
conditioned
душа
souls.
лишается
Sometimes he
своего
loses
положения
and
в
sometimes he
обществе.
gains.
Охваченная
In either
смятением,
case, the
она не
full
может
path
даже
of
спать
danger.
спокойно. И
The
становясь
full
все более
path is danger.
несчастной, постепенно
Sometimes the
теряет
conditioned
рассудок.
soul is separated
Ее
from his father
сознание
by death or or other
меняется, и
circumstances.
она навеки погружается в
Leaving him
невежество.
aside, he gradually
Она
becomes
подобна
attached
слепцу,
to others,
упавшему
such as his
в
children.
глубокий колодец,
In this
из
way,
которого ему уже
the
не
conditioned
выбраться.
soul is
Порой
sometimes
обусловленный
illusioned and
человек,
afraid.
стремясь
Sometimes he
испытать
is overjoyed and
то
sings
ничтожное счастье,
melodiously.
которое
In this
приносит
way, he
чувственное
becomes
удовольствие,
entangled and
совершает
forgets his
прелюбодеяние, либо
separation from the
похищает
Supreme
женщину
Personality
или
of Godhead
чужое
since time
имущество.
immemorial.
За это его могут
Thus he
предать в
traverses the
руки
dangerous path
правосудия,
of
а
material
может
existence,
случиться так,
and
что
on
муж
this path
или
he is not
покровитель
at all
женщины,
happy.
которая стала его жертвой,
Those who are self-realized
учинит над
simply
ним
take shelter of
расправу.
the Supreme
Так,
Personality of Godhead
ради
in
жалкого
order to get
материального
out of this
удовольствия
dangerous
человек
material
рискует
existence.
попасть в адские условия,
Without
в
accepting the
тюрьму,
devotional path,
куда
one
сажают за
cannot get out of
похищение
the
чужой
clutches of
жены,
material existence.
изнасилование,
The
воровство
conclusion
и
is
другие
that no
преступления.
one can be
Поэтому
happy
те,
in
кто
material life.
следует духовной
One
науке,
must
отвергают
take
путь
Krishna
мирской
consciousness.
кармической деятельности, ибо эта деятельность является первопричиной
Saintly
материальных
persons who are
страданий
friends to all
живого
living entities
существа, почвой на которой вырастают все его беды, как в этой жизни, так и в следующей.
have a peaceful
Иногда обусловленный
consciousness.
человек
They have
крадет
controlled
чужие
their
деньги
senses and
или
minds, and they are
завладевает
easily
ими
attain the
обманным
path of
путем, и при
liberation,
этом
the path back to
остается
Godhead.
безнаказанным.
Being
Однако
unfortunate and
потом
attached to the miserable
Девадатта,
material conditions, a materialistic person cannot associate with them.
отбирает у него эти деньги.
They,
А Вишну
there were
Mitra
many great saintly kings who were very
крадет
expert in
у
performing
Девадатты
sacrificial rituals
и
and very
присваивает себе.
competent
Таким
in conquering
образом,
other
деньги
kingdoms.
не
Yet
остаются
despite their
в одном
powers,
месте,
they cannot
а
attain the
переходят из
loving
рук в руки.
service of the
По
Supreme
сути
Personality
дела,
of
никто не
Godhead.
может использовать их
This is
для
because
своего
those great
наслаждения,
kings could
ибо
not
они
even conquer the
принадлежат
false
Богу,
consciousness
верховной
of
личности.
I am this body,
Обусловленная душа
and this is
не
my
способна
property.
оградить себя от
Thus they
тройственных
simply
страданий
created enmity
материального
with
бытия.
rival kings,
Поэтому жизнь
fought
ее
with them,
полна
and
уныния
died
и
without
скорби.
having
Эти
discharged
тройственные
life's real
страдания
mission.
включают в себя страдания, причиняемые
When the
полубогами,
conditioned soul accepts
например,
the shelter
дневной
of a
ветер
creeper of fruitive
или
activity,
невыносимая жара.
he may be enlivened by his pious
Источником
activities to
которых
higher
являются
planetary
другие живые
systems,
существа,
and thus
а
gain
также
liberation
страдания,
from hellish
исходящие
conditions.
от
But
собственного тела и
unfortunately, he
ума.
cannot remain there.
Иногда люди
After reaping
заключают
the
между
results
собой
of his
торговые
pious
сделки,
activities,
но стоит
he
одному
has
из
to
них хоть
return
на
to the
грош
lower
обмануть
planetary
другого,
systems.
как они
In this way, he
становятся
perpetually
заклятыми
goes
врагами.
up and
Как я уже
comes
говорил,
down.
на пути
Having
материальной
summarized
жизни
the teachings of Jud
обусловленной
Bharat,
душу
Shukadev
ждет
Goswami said,
множество
My dear
неодолимых
king, the
препятствий.
path indicated by Jud Bharat is like the path followed
Так
by Garuda.
называемое счастье, горе, привязанность,
The carrier
ненависть,
of the
страх,
Lord
самомнение,
and the original
иллюзия,
ordinary
безумие,
kings are
скорбь,
just like
заблуждение,
flies.
жадность, зависть, вражда, обиды,
The carrier of the Lord,
жажда,
the path
невзгоды,
followed by Garuda,
болезни,
the carrier of the
рождение,
Lord, and
старость,
ordinary
смерть.
kings are just like
Все
flies.
это приносит
Flies cannot
обусловленной
follow the
душе
path of Garuda,
бесчисленные страдания.
and to date none
Зачастую обусловленного
of the great
человека
kings
пленяет
and victorious
олицетворенная
leaders
иллюзия,
could follow this
то
path
есть
of
жена
devotional
или
service,
любовница, и
not
он
even mentally.
нежится в ее объятиях,
While
лишившись разума и
in the
забыв о
prime of
высшей цели
life, the
жизни,
great Maharaj Bharat
оставляет
gave
все
up
попытки
everything
обрести духовное
because he
знание.
was fond of
Из-за
serving the
чрезмерной
Supreme
привязанности
Personality
к
of
женщине,
Godhead,
такой
Uttama
человек
Shloka.
только и
He
думает,
gave up
как бы
his beautiful
поселиться с
wife,
ней в
nice
уютном доме,
children, great
а затем,
friends, an
найдя
enormous
подходящее
empire.
жилище, с
Although
головой
these things were
уходит
very
в
difficult to
домашние
give
дела.
up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty.
И погружается в непроглядную тьму материальной жизни. Могущественное оружие Господа
Shukadev Goswami
Кришны, его диск,
continued,
называют Хари-чакрой.
My dear king,
Диском
the activities of Bharat Maharaj are wonderful. He gave up everything difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife, and his family. His opulence was so great that even the demigods envied him. Yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation of the personality, Supreme Personality, Godhead, Krishna. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord.
Обусловленные души готовы поклоняться тому, кто спасет их от этой грозной опасности.
Even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharat did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
у лже-богов,
Even though in the body of a deer,
превозносят
Maharaj Bharat did not
неавторитетные
forget the
писания.
Supreme
Такие
Personality of
боги,
Godhead.
подобно
Therefore, when he was
грифам,
giving up the body of a
цаплям и
deer,
воронам.
he loudly uttered the following prayer.
Поклонение им
The
не
Supreme
предписано
Personality of
ведами.
Godhead is
Смерть
sacrifice personified.
сравнивают со
He
львом.
gives the results of
Ястребы,
ritualistic activity.
грифы, цапли
He is the
и
protector
вороны
of religious systems,
никого не
the
могут
personification
спасти
of
от
mystic yoga,
нападения льва.
the source of all
И
knowledge,
точно так
the
же
controller of the entire
самозваные
creation,
боги
and
не
the
спасут
supersoul in
своих
every living
поклонников
entity.
из
He is
когтей смерти.
beautiful and attractive.
Самозванных богов,
I am
с вами
quitting
и
this
йогов,
body,
которые
offering
не верят в
obeisances
верховную
unto
личность
him,
Бога,
and hoping
называют
that I may
пашаньей.
perpetually
Они
engage
сами обмануты
in his
и
transcendental loving
духовно
service.
слепы, ибо
Uttering
не знают
this,
истинного
Maharaj
духовного
Bharat
пути,
left
и
his
всякий,
body.
кто к ним обращается, тоже оказывается обманутым.
Devotees
Некоторые
interested in
люди,
hearing and
поняв,
chanting
что их
Shravanam
обманули,
Kirtanam
начинают
regularly
общаться
discuss
с
the pure
истинными
characteristics of
последователями
Bharat
йог,
Maharaj and
браманами
praise his
или теми,
activities.
кто
If one
обладает
submissively
сознанием
hears
Кришны,
and chants about the all-auspicious
которые
Maharaj
учат
Bharat,
всех поклоняться
one's
верховной
lifespan
личности
and
Бога,
material opulence
как
certainly
предписывают веды.
increase.
Однако
One can
негодяи,
become very
не
famous
способные
and
следовать
easily attain promotion
предписаниям
to the
вед,
heavenly planets,
снова
or attain
погружаются
liberation by
в
merging into the
невежество
existence of the
и
Lord.
находят себе место
Whatever
среди
one
худых,
desires can be attained
изощренных
simply by
сексуальных
hearing,
наслаждений.
chanting, and
Секс – это
glorifying the
главное
activities of
наслаждение для
Maharaj
животных,
Bharat.
особенно
In
для
this way,
обезьян.
one can
Поэтому
fulfill
людей,
his
которые
all
находят
his material
в нем
and spiritual
счастье,
desires.
вполне можно считать
One does not
потомками
have to
обезьян.
ask anyone else for these
Потомками
things,
обезьян,
for
которых
simply by
обычно
studying
называют
the life
шудрами,
of Maharaj
очень
Bharat, one can attain
потомкам
all
обезьян,
desirable
которых
things.
обычно называют
Thus
шудрами,
end
очень
the
нравится
14th chapter of the
общаться с
5th
себе
canto
подобными.
of the
Не
Srimad
зная об
Bhagavatam
истинной цели
entitled
жизни,
The Material
они живут
World
так,
as the Great
они
Forest
живут как
of
хотят
Enjoyment.
и делают все, что им вздумается. Стоит им посмотреть в лицо друг другу, как они вспоминают о чувственных удовольствиях, и их охватывает половое желание. Они постоянно заняты материальной деятельностью, грамья кармой, и, не желая сил, трудятся ради мирских благ. Так они совсем забывают, что жизнь коротка, и что когда она подойдет к концу, они опустятся на более низкую ступень эволюции. Подобно обезьяне, прыгающей с дерева на дерево, обусловленная душа прыгает из одного тела в другое. Охотник ловит обезьян и сажает в клетку, откуда им уже не вырваться. И точно
Chapter
так же душа,
15. The glories
соблазнившись
of
мимолетным половым наслаждением,
the
развивает в себе
descendants of King
привязанность к
Priyavrata.
различным материальным телам и
Srila
попадает в
Shukadev
клетку семейной
Goswami
жизни. В
continued,
семейной жизни
the son
у нее
of
бывают
Maharaj Bharat, known as
праздники,
Sumati,
мгновения,
followed the path
когда
of
она
Rishabdev,
наслаждается сексом.
but some
Так
unscrupulous
обусловленная
people
душа
imagined him to be the
теряет
Lord
всякую
Buddha
возможность
himself.
освободиться из материального плена.
These people,
Живя
who
в
were
материальном
actually
мире,
atheistic and of
обусловленная
bad
душа
character,
не помнит
took up the Vedic
своих
principles
отношений
in
с
an
верховной
imaginary,
личностью Бога,
infamous
не
way to support
пренебрегает
their
сознанием
activities.
Кришны. Она
Thus,
все
these
время
sinful
совершает
people
разного
accepted
рода
Sumati
грехи,
as Lord
и за это
Buddhadev and
подвергается
propagated the
художественным
theory
страданиям.
that
А
everyone
когда
should
к ней
follow the
приближается
principles of
смерть,
Sumati.
подобно огромному
In this way, they
зеленому
were carried
слону,
away by
душа
mental concoction.
цепенеет от страха, словно оказавшись
From
в темной
Sumati, a
горной
son
пещере.
named
Тело обусловленной души
Devatajit
страдает
was
от
born in the
множества
womb of his wife
внешних
named
условий, например, от
Vridasana.
сильного холода
Thereafter,
или
in the
ветра.
womb of
Ей также
Asuri, the
причиняют
wife of
страдания другие живые
Devajit,
существа и
the
стихийные
son named
бедствия.
Devadyumna was begotten.
Неспособная избежать
Devadyumna
этих
begot in
страданий,
the womb of his
обусловленная
wife
душа вынуждена их
Dhanumati, a
терпеть,
son
и
named
потому чувствует себя
Parameshti.
очень несчастной.
Parameshti
Ведь
begot
она
a
пришла
son
в
named
материальный мир
Pratiha
наслаждаться, а не
in the womb of
страдать.
his wife
Заключая торговые
Sovarchala.
сделки, обусловленные души
Sovarchala.
обманывают друг друга,
King
и этот
King
обман,
Pratiha personally
взаимную
propagated
ненависть.
the principles of self-realization.
Погнавшись за
In this way,
ничтожной выгодой,
not only
они
was he
жертвуют своей
purified by his
дружбой и
great
становятся врагами.
purified, but he became a great devotee of the
У
Supreme Person,
обусловленной души
Lord
нет
Vishnu,
ни
and
денег, ни
directly
крыши над
realized
головой,
him.
ни самых
In the womb of his wife,
необходимых вещей. Ей даже
Suvarchala
негде присесть,
Pratiha
отдохнуть.
begot
Иными
3
словами,
sons named
она терпит жестокие лишения,
Pratiharta,
и если ей не удается
Prastota,
удовлетворить
and
свои
Udgata.
насущные потребности,
These 3 sons
честным
were
путем,
very expert in performing
она
Vedic rituals.
посягает на чужое
Pratitharta
добро.
begot 2 sons named Aja Bhuma.
Зачастую такие попытки
Bhuma.
не приносят ей ничего,
In the
кроме
womb of his
побоев
wife
и
named
унижений. И когда
Stuti.
она погружается
In
в
the womb of
глубокое
his wife
уныние, Иногда, чтобы
Rishikuya,
удовлетворить свои корыстные желания,
King
люди
Bhuma begot
вступают
a
в брак,
son named
даже несмотря
Ugita.
на
From
взаимную привязанность,
Ugita's wife
приязнь.
Devakulya,
На
a son
взаимную
named
неприязнь. Вот так. То есть еще раз, иногда,
Prastava was
чтобы
born.
удовлетворить свои
And
корыстные желания,
Prastava
люди
begot a
вступают в
son
брак,
named
даже
Vibhu to his
несмотря
wife
на взаимную
Niyushta.
неприязнь. Однако такие
Niyutsa.
браки
In the womb of his wife
недолговечны, и
Rati,
очень скоро супруги расходятся,
Vibhu
либо
begot a
просто
son named
расстаются.
Pritushna.
Путь материальной
Pritushna
жизни
begot a
усыпан
son named
терниями,
Nakta.
и, идя по
In the womb
нему,
of his wife
обусловленная
named
душа
Akuti,
терпит
Nakata's wife
бесконечные
was
муки.
Druti,
Иногда
and
она
from her womb was the great king Gaia
что-то
was
теряет,
born.
иногда приобретает,
Gaia
но
was
и в
very
том и в другом
famous
случае
and
ее на
pious, and
каждом
he was the
шагу
best of
подстерегают
saintly kings.
опасности. Рано
Lord
или
Vishnu
поздно
and his
она
expansions, who are
разлучается со
meant
своим отцом.
to protect
Либо
the universe,
он умирает,
are
либо
always
судьба разъединяет
situated
их.
in the transcendental mode of goodness,
Оставшись
known
без
as
отца,
Vishuddha
обусловленная
Sattva.
душа еще
Being the
сильнее
direct
привязывается
expansion
к
of
своим
Lord Vishnu,
детям
King
или
Gaia was
другим
also
близким.
situated in Vishuddha
Иногда
Sattva.
она теряет способность здраво мыслить,
Because of this,
иногда ее
Maharaj Gaia
охватывает
was
страх,
fully equipped
и
with
она
transcendental
громко
knowledge.
кричит. А
Therefore,
иногда,
he was
увлекшись
called
семейными
Mahapurusha.
делами, она
King
чувствует
Gaia
себя
gave
вполне
full protection
счастливой
and
и
security
даже
to the
поет от
citizens
радости.
so that their personal
Погрязнув
property would not be
в
disturbed
мирских
by
заботах,
undesirable
душа
elements.
не
He
помнит,
also
что
saw that there was
давным-давно,
sufficient
в
food to feed all the
незапамятные
citizens.
времена,
This is
она
called
разлучилась с
Poshana.
Верховным
He
Господом.
would sometimes
Она
distribute gifts to the
бредет дорогами
citizens to satisfy
материальной
them.
жизни,
This is
которая
called
полна
Prina.
опасности и приносит ей одни
Prinana.
лишь
He would
разочарования.
sometimes call
Те, кто
meetings
познал
and
свою духовную
satisfy the
природу,
citizens with sweet words.
не
This is
жалеют,
called
не желают
Upalana.
оставаться в материальном
He would
мире
also give
и
them good
подвергать себя
instructions
этим
on how to
опасностям.
become
Поэтому
first-class
такие души
citizens.
ищут
This is called
покровительство верховной личности
Anushasana.
Бога. Пока
Such were the
обусловленная
good
душа
characteristics
не
of King
встанет на
Gaia's
путь
royal
преданного
order.
служения Господу,
Besides all
она
this,
не
King
может
Gaia was a
освободиться из
householder who
материального
strictly
плена.
observed the
Итак,
rules and
материальная жизнь
regulations of household life.
никого не делает
He performed
счастливым. Чтобы
sacrifices and
обрести
was an
истинное
unalloyed,
счастье,
pure devotee
нужно
of the
развить в
Supreme
себе сознание
Personality of
Кришны.
Godhead. He
Святые
was called
дружелюбно
Mahapurusha
относятся ко
because,
всем
as a
живым
king, he
существам
gave the
и всегда
citizens all
умиротворены.
facilities.
Они
And as a
обуздали свой
householder,
ум
he
и
executed
чувства
all his
и
duties
легко
so that
могут
at the
пройти до
end he
конца
became a
путь
strict
освобождения,
devotee of the
ведущий в
Supreme
Царство
Lord.
Бога. Но
As a devotee, he was always ready to
обыватели,
give
привязанные
respect to other
к Бога
devotees
мирской жизни,
and to
не
engage
способны
in the
общаться с
devotional
этими
service of the
великими
Lord.
душами.
And this
История
is the
знает
Bhakti
немало
Yoga
великих
process.
праведных царей,
Due
которые
to
совершили
these
множество
transcendental
пышных
activities, King
жертвоприношений
Gaia
и
was always free from the bodily
завоевывали
conception. He was full in Brahman
и
realization,
завоевали
and consequently,
обширные
he was
земли.
always
Но,
jubilant.
несмотря
He
на
did not
все свое
experience material
могущество, эти
lamentation.
цари не
Although he
обрели
was
право
perfect in
любовного
all
служения
respects,
личности
he was
Бога,
not proud,
верховной
nor was
личности
he
Бога,
anxious to
потому
move
что
the
им
kingdom.
не удалось победить
My dear King
собственные
Parikshit,
заблуждения.
those who are
Я
learned
тело.
scholars in the histories of the
всё это
Puranas
принадлежит
eulogize the glories of King Gaia
Поэтому
with the
они
following
просто
verse.
враждовали с другими
The great King
царями,
Gaia
сражались
used
с
to
ними
perform
и
all
погибали,
kinds of Vedic
так и не
rituals.
достигнув
He
истинной
was
цели
highly
жизни.
intelligent and expert in studying
Своим
all the Vedic
прибежищем
literatures.
Ильяну кармической
He maintained the
деятельности,
religious principles and possessed all kinds of
в
opulence.
награду
He was a leader among
за свои
gentlemen and a
благочестивые
servant of the
поступки
devotees.
может вознестись на
He was a
вознестись на
totally
райские
qualified
планеты
plenary
и на
expansion
какое-то
of the
время
Supreme
забыть
Personality of
об адских
Godhead.
муках.
Therefore,
Увы,
who could equal him in the
остаться там
performance of
навсегда
gigantic
ей
ritualistic
не
ceremonies?
удастся. Не удастся.
All the chaste and honest daughters of Maharaj Daksha, such as
Насладившись плодами
Shraddha,
своих праведных
Maritri,
дел,
and
душа
Daya,
вынуждена
whose
вернуться на
blessings
землю.
were always effective,
Так она
bathed
бесконечно
Maharaj
скитается по
Gaya
материальному
with
миру,
sanctified
попадая
water.
то на высшие, то на
Indeed,
низшие планеты.
they were very satisfied
Изложив
with Maharaj
наставление
Gaya.
Джады и
The
Бхараты,
planet Earth
Шукадева
personified
Госвами
came as a
сказал:
cow,
«О Махараджа
and
Парикшит,
as though she
путь преданного
saw her
служения,
calf, she
описанный
delivered
Джадой
milk
Бхаратой,
profusely
подобен
when
пути
she saw
Гаруды,
all the good qualities of Maharaj
а
Gaya.
обыкновенные
In other words,
цари
Maharaj Gaya was
подобны
able to
мухам.
derive all benefits from the earth
Ни одна
and
муха
thus
не
satisfy the
способна
desires
следовать за
of his
Гарудой, который
citizens.
носит на себе
However,
самого
he personally
Господа.
had no
И точно
desire.
так же ни одному царю
Although King
или
Gaia had no
горному
personal
вождю,
desire for
каким
sense
бы знаменитым
gratification,
он ни
all his
был,
desires
и
were
сколько бы
fulfilled by
побед
virtue
он
of
не
his
одержал,
performance of Vedic
до сих
rituals.
пор
All the
не
kings with
удавалось
whom
хотя бы
Maharaj Gaya had to
мысленно идти
fight were
путем
forced to
преданного
fight on
служения.
religious
Великий
principles.
царь
They were very
Бхарата
satisfied with his
в
fighting,
рассвете
and they
лет
would present all kinds
отрекся
of
от
gifts to
мира,
him.
потому что
Similarly,
его
all the
очень
Brahmanas in his
привлекло
kingdom were very satisfied with
служение
Gaya's
Верховному
magnificent
Господу
charities.
Уттамашлоки.
Consequently,
Он
the Brahmanas
оставил свою
contributed contribute a
прекрасную
sixth
жену,
of
милых
their
детей,
pious activities for
дорогих
Gaia's
сердцу
benefit
друзей и
in the next
огромную
life.
империю. От всего этого
In
очень
Maharaj
трудно
Gaya's
отказаться.
sacrifices,
Но Махараджа
there were
Бхарата
great supply
дорожил
of
благами этого мира
intoxicant known
не
as
больше, чем
soma.
испражнениями,
King
и
Indra
потому
used to
легко
come and become
расстался с ним.
intoxicated by drinking
Воистину
large
велик был
quantities of soma
этот
rasa.
благородный
Also,
царь.
the Supreme Personality of
Шукадева
Godhead,
Госвами продолжал. О царь,
Lord Vishnu,
деяния
the Yagya
Махараджи
Purusha,
Бхараты
also came
воистину
and personally
удивительны.
accepted all the
Но
sacrifices
он,
offered unto him
не колеблясь,
with pure and firm
оставил все
devotion
то,
in
от
sacrificial
чего
arena.
так трудно
When the
отказаться
Supreme Lord is
другим.
pleased by the
Царство,
person's
жену,
actions,
детей.
automatically
Махараджа
all
Бхарата был
demigods,
настолько
human
богат,
beings,
что даже
animals,
полубоги
birds,
завидовали ему.
bees,
И
creepers,
тем не менее
trees,
он
grass,
отрекся от всех
and
своих
all
богатств,
other living
как
entities,
и
beginning
подобает
with Lord
такой
Brahma, are
возвышенной
pleased.
душе.
The Supreme
Махараджа
Personality of
Бхарата
Godhead
был
is the
великим
super soul of
преданным.
everyone,
Он
and he is
отринул
by nature
все
fully
мирские
pleased.
блага именно
Nonetheless,
потому,
he
что
came to the
его
arena of Maharaj Gaya
неудержимо
and
влекло
said,
к
I am
Верховному
fully
Господу
pleased.
Кришне, который обладает
In the
красотой,
womb
богатством,
of
славой,
Gayanti,
знанием,
Maharaj
силой
Gaya
и
begot three
отрешенностью во
sons,
всей их полноте.
named
Кришна так
Chit-
привлекателен, что ради него человек
Chitrarata,
может отказаться от
Sugati,
всего,
and
к чему стремятся обитатели
Avarodhana.
этого мира. Даже
In the womb of
освобожденные,
his wife Urna,
даже освобожденные
Chitrarata
теряют
begot a
всякую
son
ценность для
named
того, чей ум
Samrat.
поглощен любовным
The
служением
wife of
Господу.
Samrat
Даже
was
оказавшись в теле
Utkala,
оленя, Махараджа
and in her
Бхарата
womb
не забыл
Samrat
верховный решение
begot the
Бога.
son named
И
Marichi.
когда ему
In the
пришло
womb of
время
his
покидать
wife
это тело,
Bindumati,
он
Marichi begot a
провозгласил:
son named
Верховный
Bindu.
Господь —
In the
это
womb of his wife
олицетворенное жертвоприношение.
Saraga,
Именно
Bindu begot
он
the son
дарует
named
людям
Madhu.
плоды
In the womb of his
совершенных
wife
ими
named
обрядов.
Sumana,
Он
Madhu
хранитель
begot
религии,
the son
олицетворение
named
мистической йоги,
Vivarata.
источник
In the
всего
womb of his
знания,
wife Boja,
владыка
Vivarata
вселенной
begot
и
two
сверхдуша
sons
в сердце
named
каждого.
Manu,
Он неописуемо красив
Mantu and
и
Pramantu.
привлекателен. И
In the womb of
сейчас,
his wife
когда моя
Satya,
нынешняя жизнь подошла к концу, я склоняюсь
Matu
перед ним,
begot the son named
надеясь
Bhuvana. And in the womb of his wife Dushna, Bhuvana begot the son named Tvashta. In the womb of his wife Virochana, Tvashta begot a son named Viraja. The wife of Viraja was Visuchi, and in her womb Viraja begot 100 sons and one daughter. All of these sons of the son named Satrajit was predominant. There is a famous verse about King Viraja. Because of his high qualities and wide fame, King Viraja became the jewel of the dynasty of King Priyavrata. Just as Lord Vishnu, by his transcendental potency, decorates and blesses the demigods. Thus, in chapter 15 of the glories of the descendants of King Priyavrata,
Махараджи Бхараты, можно обрести все желаемое, и материальное, и духовное. Так что нет никакой надобности обращаться за исполнением желаний кому-то еще. Конец 14 главы. Еще одну прочитать главу. Надо иметь два рта, чтобы два рта читали. И 4 уха, чтобы слышать можно было
you need to have 2 mouths to read at one time and four hands to be able to read more.
Давайте сейчас посмотрим, что у нас здесь.
Let's see if we're going to read one more chapter.
Угу. Да, потом пойдет уже описание Джамбудвипа, и тут очень много таких научных вещей, цифр очень много. Ну, в общем, новая книга, это новый том уже будет.
They're going to start talking about the Inscriptions of Jambudvip. There'll be lots of numbers and a whole new tome.
Глава 15. Великие потомки царя Приявраты.
Chapter 15. We just read chapter 15. We got a little ahead. But I think we're going to stop the stream here. Anyway, have a wonderful night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And see you tomorrow.
Мы уже начали другую главу, другую книгу.